Started off with a bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, yo, set it up.
Surfing on the web and I'm shooting at 3. I've been goated when I got my G. I'm an alien boy from a different planet, yeah. So I got my drink, I'm riding in the 1920s Model T Ford. Car era lore. Call me Levi playing on the keys, boy. And I'm about to put my gloves on. If I said it, then I meant that. Yeah, I like that one, I'm about to get that. Crash that whip for the drumsticks, whiplash. I'm about to get them all. Are you with that? In a white boat, surrounded by blue. I want one, but I got a cop too. I wanna fly high in the sky, arms out wide, trying to soar from a bird's eye view. I'm on fire, Ricky, Bobby, cracking the pavement, Whitney, Bobby. I'm a Saki bomb, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Bruce Wayne been a dog, and I keep it 101, cause I'm feeling kinda spotty. You sipping on some rock, and I'm sipping on octane. The only thing around my neck is the
Started off with a
blockchain.
bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
NFT, Twitter, blockchain. Seeing with the ghosts and we ballin' like the Brown James. Crypto. We can make a trade, get the memo. Reviews not falling for the FOMO. Listening to Coffee with Captain. You know we worldwide, they loco. I ain't never gonna stop rapping. Orlando, yeah, we working magic. We rocking Ethereum entities. I just went and caught me a half base. Man, I gotta shout out
Started
the
off with a
boy.
bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Freaking the mood to choose one, but they got knowledge to move, son. I'm shocking in shades with my brother in suits, yeah, them blues is coming. Even though it's hard to pick, eeny, miny, mo, soda on the mix, no biting lips, it's time to go. Index number 1, no thumbs up, you gotta scroll. Looking at the ghost in studio, it's time to go. Had a helmet on by myself until I met a mask that wanted to have a face off. So had to bring my chainsaw, full tank of gas in the drive with my brakes off. I'm A1, but a different kind of steak sauce.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain, powered by ApeCoin, where we dive into all things crypto, NFTs, Web3, and cutting-edge technology. Remember, nothing here is financial advice. Early-stage tech can be exceptionally volatile and risky. So grab your coffee and join Cap and Steve for today's conversation.
Welcome to the future.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain. I am Steve. Today, joined by my co-host, Big Nill. Cap is on vacation, looking in the Caribbean, looking really, really nice out there. Thanks to everybody who came this morning. Give us a like, a retweet, a comment on the room. And as a reminder today, nothing here today is financial advice. Crypto is risky. NFTs are risky. Meme coins are exceptionally risky. All this can go to zero at a moment's notice. So do your own research. All guests today and anybody who speaks on stage may hold items or NFTs or digital collectibles or crypto they talk about. So you want to make sure you are doing your own research out there and being careful. Good day today, though. Big Nill, excited to have you here. A Cleveland holding down Coffee with Captain this morning. We normally got the two Ohio boys, me and Cap, but today myself and Big Nill holding it now. GM Big Nill, how are you doing this morning?
GM Steve, happy to be here as always, my friend. Appreciate the invite to be a co-host. Obviously, like, would we rather be in the Caribbean than Cleveland? Maybe. It's just maybe, right? But we got Guardians going on a little playoff push here. We got some good stuff here. It's a little rainy in the land. You know, I was just thinking, like, last night, I'm like going to bed. I'm sending off my GN post and all those things. I was like, Steve and I should have organized to do this in person. That would have been so much cooler. But like, I did, right? But like, I was just thinking about it out loud. But you know, the good thing about it is that people like us, we never leave. So eventually that can happen. And we'll have some, yeah, I'm just funny when I was thinking about it. I was like, we're literally doing the same show, just like 20 miles away from each other. So like, we should be better than that, but it's all good. It's funny.
It is a funny thing. I am increasingly bad at getting myself out of the house because, and I know you live this life and I want to get into this a little bit just because I know you've been doing a lot of sort of, you know, you've had this unlock on X, which I think is good because we always, by the way, do us a favor, give us a like, a retweet, a comment on the room. Probably starting a campaign, maybe in the next couple of days, got held up by Korea Blockchain Week. We are going to be getting some opportunities for the folks who are listening to win money once again. I'm just checking if anything has hit my account to do this yet. Not quite yet. So oh no, it has. So maybe we will start today. If not, we will start tomorrow for sure. A little bit of a new campaign. We'll tease it out for those early listeners. We're going to do some death fund runs for those in the crowd and do that. So maybe we'll start it today. Maybe we might start it tomorrow. But yeah, you've been doing quite a bit of creation lately related to your journey, related to how often you post, what you're doing, sort of this idea that you had this almost ego tied to posting, or you didn't have time, or you didn't know what to post about. Can you talk a little bit about that just as we kick off the show? Because I think a lot of people out there listen and maybe they're like, what's the point? Or they're very nihilistic about it. And I've just seen you hit a different gear lately. So I'd love to kind of start there before we get into any news of the day.
Yeah, for sure, man. And also, I got rugged, so if you can toss me co-host again and just reorganize over here. But
yeah,
I can. It's classic, right? But regardless, man, like I've been doing a lot of like just reflecting on like what my journey has been about, like in this whole like crypto scene, and like so probably like it's crazy, almost a year ago, right? Like 10 months ago, we had the whole like meme coin madness with like Trump token and Libra and all this other stuff going on, and it just felt like CT for me was like pushing me out. Like it was like my opinion on those things was like F those things, they're not worth our time. Everyone's like no, like let's make a bag, let's do this, let's do that. And I'm like, I mean, if y'all know, like I'm not the greatest trader out here, right? Like I've got like my hype bags and I'm like bullish on some stuff and I'm focused, right? I'm DeFi'd up and all that kind of stuff. It's great. But like I'm never gonna be the guy who's like really focused in the trenches. Like my hyperfixation, my ADHD does not work that way, right? So I gotta be focused on other things, right? So I went over to TikTok. I started creating for about 6 months over there. Did some great work with some great creators, got my account up to around like, 7K. I was doing great live streams, all this kind of content. It was really effective. So I found like, I don't know, it almost like going to a different platform almost like emboldened me to like have that like kind of like put my like armor back on and be like, dude, like, your shit. You know what I mean? And you are a professional in this space and people respect you for that. So I kind of like re-equipped myself with like those tools and then came back over about 4 months ago to like, cause I was truly just doing like GM and GN posts. Like I was like one of those bots. I was a terrible Twitter X user. And then I came back over, Katana had launched. We started a Kaido campaign. Like there was a little momentum for Polygon again. And I said like, you know what? Like I'm just going to go like balls to the wall. Like, why would I like half-ass like doing something like ever in this space? And I just started like really posting about like my own experience, like what it was like to start at zero and come all the way up, what it was like to transition from Web 2 to Web 3, like our perspective at Polygon and like motivating people to do the same thing. And I'm like, a lot of my audience just started like really resonating with that and saying like, dude, like, no, we're going to ride with you and just like grow with your tactics and find another way for whatever that looks like. So I leaned into it super heavy. I feel like it's done really well overall. And of course we just lost Steve. So Nill solo on Coffee with Cap. Let's go. But I leaned into it super heavily. I feel like I've done a lot of job of like growing effectively over these last few months. We're back, baby.
Sorry about that. I don't know, man. I don't know if it's my internet. I apologize. I love that you kept cooking. I apologize. I don't know if it was StreamYard because they didn't update this morning, or I've had some funky internet things. So I apologize. So keep on cooking. But you were making it work. So keep going.
No, I appreciate you, brother. But like, yeah, it just like was a reestablishment of like why I started in the space, and it was really just like connect with people. Right, like to connect with people organically. To like, I'm using. I put a post out. Like, I'm approaching this from two ways. Like, number one, I'm using this as like Facebook profile status from like circa 2008, where I was just like posting anything on my Facebook timeline that I thought was even remotely important. Right, which was just like, oh, like Nill's doing this, Nill's doing that, Nill's doing this, and it's really like people are taking to it very well. Right, so it's like one of those cool things, talking about growth tips and all that kind of stuff, but also just like kind of being like, I'm treating myself like I'm an underdog again. You know what I mean? Like I've just gotten started. Like I've just like approached this from like the first day ever, every single day. And I'm just like, I'm just like spitting on the timeline and people are like, damn, like Nill's real. Like I resonate with that. And so it just kind of taught me again that like the way you differentiate yourself as a creator, as a professional, as whatever it is just be your unique self, because you'll relate with people so much more effectively if you're just doing that than just trying to like focus on the trends or be that perfect trader or whatever that may be. Just had to adjust of who I am and come back down to zero a little bit.
Talk to me a little bit about, you talk about that. And one of the things that I had to do is I actually had this whole thesis that when Elon Musk put um, the view stats on X publicly, it hurt a lot of people as much as it helped certain people. Because I think for a lot of people, you might see, I'll see an interesting thing. Like I have a GM post I put up this morning just because I was, like to get something out in the morning before the show. And to give an example, and this is one of those things where I don't tie like ego to this sort of stuff, although it is hard at times, I think certainly for everybody, where it's like, oh, okay, like that's got like, 25 replies. That's pretty good. And then you look and you're like, oh, 507 views. Shit. Right. And so like, there is this sort of level of like ego, I think, that goes into tied to posting. And like at times I'd be like, oh my God, my stuff's being nerfed. And there's a period of time actually where like I disappeared from the timeline when there was an algo update where it was like I went from, even when they had the view counts on there, I'd go like, oh, average tweet, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 views to like all of a sudden it went down to like 125 in like an hour. And I'd be like, what's going on here? How do you combat something like that? Because I think it's sometimes easier said than done to be like, oh, just don't worry about the stats, do your own thing. But I do think sometimes it's a little hard. And so if you're firing off a lot of content, you're probably going to have a lot of stuff that gets a little bit nerfed, doesn't always show up well. How do you deal with something like that when you're posting as often as you're posting?
Yeah, for sure. So like just for a scale for the audience, like I went from posting like twice a day to August, I kicked it up to like 5 to 6 times a day. And now I'm averaging like 10 posts per day, which is absolutely cracked. And it's insane and it's impossible to maintain. I'm literally just doing it for like a case study to like essentially get all the stats in one place. I'm going to write a big article at the end of September about it, like talk about growth. Cause I've taken my account from like, again, followers is kind of it's one of those things where it's like easy to measure. So that's why I'm using it as like kind of the measuring stick, but the impressions and engagement levels are way more important. I've taken my account from like 12,000 to around 16.3 as of this morning. And the goal is like 20K by the end of the year. I'll probably blast that goal past that. 22, 25 is like the actual goal now. So like being able to do like 3,000, like around like 3,000 or plus, at this point, 4,000 plus followers in like 2 months was pretty bullish for me. Right. But like, kind of like, I don't know. So I've connected with a lot of new communities, and one of the communities that we had spin off is Billions from Polygon, right? And Billions is obviously it's like a KYC solution that uses ZK proof. So essentially, it's like eliminating CAPTCHA and like getting your data all over the place, right? I appreciate you, Von Frunten. You're a G.
Yeah, Von Frunten. I was gonna say like keep cooking, but Von Frunten out here, one of our favorites, and he's a entrepreneur who works very very hard. Oh, smart guy, actually. Successful lawyer turned entrepreneur. So he's doing what a lot of us do, which we're just like, what are we doing with our lives here, getting into crypto? But Von Frunten do it. I would say like, doesn't matter if you get 10 views, 1 like, whatever it is, you just got to fire. And someone who's really entertaining and interesting like Von Frunten is going to do well and find his crowd. And I'd rather find a crowd of 300 people who are really excited than thousands of people who don't care. But So you mentioned diving into new communities, and you mentioned Billions, which, by the way, I still need to dive deeper into Billions. I understand. I actually think we'll get into Polygon even a little more because, I mean, we'll let you homer it all day long. I mean, I obviously love Polygon, and there's, Billions, and I think is a really interesting solution. I think there's a ton of interesting solutions on Polygon. But so the community aspect. So you started diving more into communities, and you've seen that as almost not just a growth hack, but probably a genuine connection point, because you probably actually roll with the community, and you're not like it's not just you're doing it for the sake of doing it. You're doing it because you actually enjoy being there.
No, yeah, like I mean, you see my PFP, like I'm rocking a Billions mask nowadays, right? On top of my beans. And like it's because like I believe in the message, and a lot of those like people that believe in Billions, they're very new creators, right? And they're stemming from a lot of different places in the world, right? So like they're stemming from Africa, they're stemming from like India and APAC, like a lot of unique places that like I don't have much exposure to, right? And like I'm somebody who like I've been able to travel in Europe and be in a few places, but I've never been able to get like very far east. And like I like to expose myself, and it's the reason why I enjoy Azuki so much, is because it exposes me to like a whole new culture that I would never have like gotten exposure to unless I jumped into Web3. Like I wouldn't have dove into anime, I wouldn't have dove in all these places. So I say that because like a lot of their creators and all their people that believe in them, they're very like underdeveloped's the wrong word, because there's some super talented people there who are like making music and great content, and they're making like art pieces and all this cool stuff. But like I kind of resonate with that community because I mean, Steve, there's like I'm a motivator by trade. Like, I'm a teacher, I'm a coach. Like, I like to say, like, yo, we're rowing the boat in this direction. It's either get on or you're going to sink. Right. And so to have like a new community who's really trying to establish themselves, and Billion's been popping off in like spaces, and Javi, their community lead, is fantastic. And like Evan, their founder, is amazing. Like, they have great leadership who have just like put them in the right place right now. And I've been using that like as a kind of a reset for my own purpose and to inspire those newer creators. They're like, damn, like Nill's just giving us the sauce. Like I am giving them the tools to ensure that they feel like they have the quick and easy route to growing effectively. And a lot of them are like, yo, Nill, like I've used what you said, like reply wise and like engagement wise, and like you differentiate myself, and it's working. And all that does is just fuel my fire, man. And now I'm just like doubling down and posting harder and giving them all the tips and being there for people. And then that like allows me to reach like escape velocity, like these newer people who are still developing their content. I post and like I hit like a quick like 30 or 40 likes like right off the rip, and then it reaches like a ton of other places on CT, and then I just start playing with the algorithm more and like trolling people that are bigger creators like Shiv and Bandit and calling them out for BS that they're on. One of my posts that did like pretty well was like you know, I'm an older guy in this space, I'm 31, like we're boomers past 30 apparently in this ecosystem. And so I posted, I was like, y'all young MFers on CT, you think you're so cool with your Balenciaga tees and trips to Bali. I have something you never will ever have, a wife. And it just popped off super hard. And everyone's like, and then Shiv reposts it, and he posted a picture of it. And he goes, so here's me in a Balenciaga tee in Bali, ... And so like, I'm just playing with all these games and playing with all the different places and like doing a little bit of shit posting, but mostly it's just value driven. And that community has allowed me to tap into a lot of unique things. So again, I just get motivated by people, and that's why I'm leaning in so much heavier into like this whole avenue on CT again. It really feels good too.
Yeah, it's funny. It's actually very appropriate. Like I said on my it's funny, my GM post this morning, completely inadvertently, but it has a lot of the same sort of themes where you talk about like, you know, just post, just show up, just do your thing type thing. And oh, I pinned the wrong one. I will pin the right one now. But it's funny because I am not a natural runner. I mean, I don't mind running. Like I'll run, you know, a little bit here and there. But yesterday, I think the longest I've ever run is 11 miles, 11 and a half or something like that. And I did it. And I was actually, here's the problem with how I approach life sometimes. I ran 11 miles a few years ago when I was in my running phase, and I was sad because I ran 11 and a half miles, but I was trying to run a impromptu half marathon. I was feeling good. I'd never run a half marathon. The furthest I'd run is maybe 7 miles, and I was feeling it, so I kept going. But around 11 and a half, I go back to my neighborhood where I can do a quick 2-mile loop, and I'm like, I'm going to do this thing. But as I got into my neighborhood, my legs just died. And I was like, I'm 42. And so at that time, I'm like 38, 39. And I'm like, I probably don't want to like be sidelined from running forever or for a long time until I do this thing. And I judge myself. And even yesterday, like I ran and I'm like, oh man, 8 miles. Like I haven't run 8 miles in a long time. Like I, ran 7 last week, but outside of that, I don't run very long. And so I was like, oh man, but I didn't run the 9-minute pace I was looking for. It was 9 minutes and 10 seconds. And I kind of had this moment where I'm like, you know what? I'm fucking proud of this. It was better than I was yesterday. And I think with posting, it's a lot of the same stuff where it's if I care about something and I find it interesting and I fire it off, don't worry about the engagement. Don't worry about cooking. Don't worry about all that. It's just post what you think, and eventually you will find your tribe. And the reply thing that you mentioned as well, I think is such an important tip that people don't go. By the way, give us a like, a retweet, a comment on the room. GM to the folks out there. I will try to get to the folks in the chat and keep an eye on that as well. I know normally kind of dual doing on that one, so I'll do my best to keep an eye on it. But do us a favor and keep an eye on that, and give us those GMs and your thoughts on the conversation this morning. But I just think that the reply is an unlock that people don't realize. You'll actually enjoy Twitter more if you reply, or X more. You will just enjoy it more. You will reply, people will reply back, and you'll actually have conversations, which is the point of this platform. The point of this platform isn't necessarily to just microblog as it was initially when it came out in 2007, 2008, and have people read your stuff. It's you post, someone replies, and you can have real-time conversation. It's real-time news and real-time conversation on X. So I think get in the conversation. One of the things I've done that is a little hack for me, I have a list, which this is before Kaido, but people think it's all Kaido related now. I called it crypto capybaras because I just like capybaras. I think they're awesome. I was like, crypto capybaras, haha. And I started making the list and I started tossing some people on that I just genuinely engage in conversation with. And as I put it together and I add to it as I go and I find people I forget, I found myself replying to a lot of people. And the funny part is, one, I show up in their algos more apparently when I do that, as you kind of alluded to earlier. But two, I end up in conversations. Like I would reply to like NFT Stats is one of my favorite because a lot of times he has strong thoughts that I disagree with and vice versa. And we agree on a lot of stuff, but I'll reply to him and we'll just get into a debate on the timeline. And I have people being like, look at me watching this debate. And it's like, you just suddenly are getting in, like, it's like your reply to Shiv. It's like, you make a kind of like a little bit of a troll, a little bit of a fun reply, and it turns into a thing and you never know. So I love the inspiration. I love the context. I love the comments on getting out there and doing that because, I think some takeaways for people is, one, don't be afraid to fire off your posts. Doesn't matter where they go. Start creating your community. Two, getting the replies. And three, mentioned with Billions, like find that community that you can engage with, because I didn't even realize until I started seeing the masks everywhere that there was an entire Billions community that exists. Because on paper, you're like, oh, it's like a, sort of a, real human verification sort of, and obviously you've got things on Polygon, like I said, solutions like Miden that privatized blockchains. You've got solutions like Billions, which are, helping verify that are real people, a very real thing that, Chris Dixon talks about. In fact, when we wrote the Everything token and we went on our media tour, the number one question we would constantly get from people is, my man, love
Come
that.
on now. You kidding me? It sits on my desk every single day. Come on.
Appreciate that more than you know. It means a ton.
Always, brother.
Is that the one that I signed for you at the
Hell yeah, it is, dude. Are you kidding me? Look at this. Let's go.
Yes,
I got the official.
Yes,
this thing needs to be put into a PSA slab or something like that.
Yes, sir. But no, it's like a thing where it's like when we wrote the book, the number one question we got when we were going is, what would you include if you had a little more time to write? Because what would happen is we would write and our editor would say pens down, and then we would convince her to let us write for a couple more weeks because it's an ever-evolving space and more stuff would happen and we'd have more examples. And we wrote the book to be evergreen, that it could be opened up because it's a framework book, but like still, you want to have the most relevant examples. And the one thing we missed that we said that was like the number one thing was AI verification and that idea of exactly what Billions is doing. So I love that. And it just by nature, it's a community I should probably be more involved in and be caring more about. But yeah, man, I think it's just good advice for people out there. So I want to start with that just because I've seen you out there doing that. And I think it's an important thing for a lot of people out there. And people like Von Frunten should be letting it fly because you do have the opportunity to meet more people, and you'll never know. Like, I meet people I never would have otherwise met who have been in crypto since 2015, 2018, 2020, even new people who I just have such alignment with. So, get yourself out there for sure. But, that said, interesting overnight. I think we can get into some of the news of the day, things that are going on, and to kind of weave in a ton of things throughout. I will say, first thing that caught my mind overnight, which we will get to the daily market update in here in a second that we do, but crypto stabilizing, move down. A lot of people freaked out. I saw some people freaking out. I think there's a group of accounts who some of their entire content is anytime we have a red day, they say, I think the cycle is over. This could be it, y'all. I never felt that way, but how are you feeling when you see the market go down? I was talking yesterday. I had Grateful Ape on. We were talking about it. I'll probably ask Von Frunten about it tomorrow. You see a day like yesterday where the market just absolutely nukes. Majors are down. Hyperliquid has a new competitor coming out, and CZ crushes competitors. They literally go to jail for longer than he went to jail. What do you do when you see a red day like that? Is it just another day in the office because, Polygon's going to build regardless? Is it on a personal level, you worry about your investments? Do you rebalance? Do you deploy stables? Do you just look at it and say, hey, I'm in DeFi? Like, how do you look at a red day when it is that red? Because it wasn't the bloodiest day, but it was one of our biggest liquidations in the past few years.
Yeah, it was insane, actually. Like, just to see the numbers and everything that happened on that side. Obviously, there was a lot of like, what we call like a triple witching day over the weekend. Like, it was a lot of like little things that like added up to what was like a liquidation event, right? And you said it, right? Like, definitely my position and my employment is like something that stabilizes my experience here. because like I know what we have and I know my purpose and I know what I've made as an impact at Polygon, right? So I feel like that's like my like even keel. It's like, okay, like, yeah, shit's gonna go wild, things gonna move, like that's okay because I know where we are right now and I can continue to work on what I do. So it allows me to like tune out the noise a little bit where all these people are going into the doom and gloom mode. But it also like, again, it emboldens me to reassure new people that I've tapped into, new communities, new individuals, that like this is normal and this is okay. And like we have to be okay with these type of fluctuations if we want to survive long term, because in every single explosive market in tech and in stocks and everything that's been like, this is something that has to happen in order for us to establish like new highs with those lows, right? Which is okay. I keep reminding myself this. And then yeah, like I'm definitely making moves as far as like I was very stabled up during this dip, especially, right? I've like I feel like I've finally evolved from previous cycles where I feel like I've made my money and I'm okay with what I have. And so I've definitely allocated capital to the side where I'm like, yo, you're not touching this, right? Just let it accrue value on Morpho or wherever it is. And then I deployed more things into things that I was confident in, right? And even if hype has a competitor, I'm still a hype bull. Like it is what it is. Like I'm diving deeper in that ecosystem. And I even took like a long out on Aster. Like I was like, dude, like if people are talking about it like this, like if APAC doesn't have access to all the you know the different kind of perps and dexes that they think they don't have, like why wouldn't I take a little bit of shot at it, right? And I entered at like exactly 1.5 and now it's sitting at like 1.86 this morning. So like feeling good about that move at this point. Now again, this could dip again and that kind of stuff, but again, like I'm just re-entering and doubling down on like my high conviction plays, and just feeling like you know every opportunity. And I really think that my thesis for this cycle is that every single time that we have more regulation, every single time that we have more institutional investment, every single time that we see massive governments investing and diving into our technology deeper, we're just elongating ourselves out. Right. As far as like, you know, everyone, a lot of my people and a lot of people that like you and I know personally are like, yo, October's our top. And I'm like, okay, like sure. In a previous bull cycle, I would have been agreeing with you because that's what the time frames say, right? And that's what previous cycles would have said for it. But you have to take all this new data into consideration and realize that because of so much additional regulation, because of so much additional institutional buy-in, we might not see a bottom like we previously have. So for me, that tells me we are going to elongate this out. I'm estimating into at least like, you know, a late Q1 of 2026 and seeing what I can take advantage of when we see these dips. And it's only going to be a little bit of a bite off so I can feel like I've extended a little bit of my capital that I've already made in this cycle. So operating with confidence, ignoring the noise. And honestly, like because I work, I can stay off CT. Like if I feel like it's a bad day on CT, I'm just making my posts and removing myself and getting my work done. That's the main thing.
Yeah, it's funny you say this. I actually, and I don't know exactly where I net out on this. I got to think about it quite a bit, but I will say it would not shock me if crypto starts to follow the normal market cycles that you see in TradFi, because what we have now is, and this is where I could see crypto still being the best outperforming asset class over the next, 1, 3, 5, 7 years. And I think in longer terms, I just do. It's not terms of like minutes and days outside of things. If I have positions that I'm really watching, don't get me wrong, I have those too. But like in general, it has literally never been a better time to be in crypto. Right now, we have the Bitcoin ETF, which has cooked better than anything not named NVIDIA over the past year. We have the ETH ETF, which has performed incredibly well since ETH started getting a bid from the strategic reserves. We have the government moving more and more closer to starting the Bitcoin strategic reserve, not just from what they own, but potentially what they want to buy. We have ETF standards, which are actually going to let people push ETFs through without having to go through hoops and get a specific approval where it's like, yeah, you know what? It's more towards the traditional ETF standards if you meet these certain fitness regulations that you need to meet. And that's just on the institutional side. On the crypto side, we have about 1 billion airdrops coming from everything under the sun. We've got OpenSea, we've got Base, we've got MetaMask saying a token, we've got Abstract, which we're streaming on live right now. We've got all these different airdrops, and that's on top of like everything else that everybody's talking about and farming and using, et cetera, right? So you've got, I counted it yesterday, and I probably got, Mega ETH, all the Monad. I've probably got like, 20 different TGEs that, I'm getting everything from, the price of a hamburger up until who knows, thousands of dollars potentially, all on there. You've got 67% of fund managers not having exposure to crypto, which is a wild number because that's only going to go up. You don't have recommendations yet, but seems to be coming that Kevin O'Leary predicted 3 years ago, that crypto will be the next sector of the S&P 500, probably going to be the next sector of the S&P 500, probably going to see a lot of these companies continue to succeed, probably going to see an allocation of crypto recommended even at a 3 to 5% in a portfolio, even at a 2%. The numbers on that are massive when you look at the 401k numbers. All of these tailwinds on top of the fact that the tech and the cost barriers coming up. I mean, I try to explain to my friends sometimes because I don't talk about what I do public a lot outside of like when I do like speaking opportunities at a university or something like that, because a lot of people don't understand it because tech diffusion takes time. People seem to forget that the internet was a passing fad in 1999, according to a literal Nobel Prize winner, right? And a lot of people felt that the tech, the cost barrier, credit cards were fudded when they first came out. Online banking, people used to take their check and write a check and hand it to someone at a store because they would never do their banking online. You know he's going to the store. Like that's incredibly dangerous. You would never do that. Cell phones. If you want to really have a brain twister, Google the cell phone McKinsey study, and you'll find that cell phones were considered, McKinsey estimated, I think the demand for cell phones would be about 100,000, I want to say, maybe 1 million. I can't remember the exact number in 2000. And it ended up being, this is pre-iPhone, it ended up being like 1% of the actual demand. The reason is, and again, this is not like an exact science. It's just something I've been thinking about as I kind of like, work things out with myself. But I thought to myself, it's like the tech barrier is obviously there. People need to know how to do tech. The information barrier, people understanding it. The cost barrier, which is actually people, it's like expensive to get into crypto and you feel like you need money, all these other things. And then the infrastructure. And I think some of the things that you probably are keenly aware of is that infrastructure answer, because infrastructure is really hard and takes time to build. You're duct taping technology. It's constantly getting better. But the fact that we have things like privy wallets under the hood, the fact that you have things like relay swaps that are now under the hood, whether it's OpenSea or whether it's, Project X, you put a Hyperliquid under the hood, you white label it, you figure out what fees you want to charge alongside of it, and you're good. All of these things move us forward. And I just think, to your point, there has never been a more time to be a more bullish, may not even be the right word, but a better time for crypto as an industry. And I just think Red Days and us living on the, hey, we're working on the cycles and we're working on this and this is going to be the end of it. I don't think it's going to follow that anymore. I think this is just unlike anything we've ever seen before. Stable coins, Wisconsin's Wyoming is working with AVAX on a stable coin, right? Like a statewide stable coin, which just makes sense that you would go to Wisconsin, they'd say, use our stable coin, get a deal. So just like you do a fiat currency flip, you take your Ohio or Florida or California stablecoin, you flip it to Wisconsin, you get some better, to Wyoming, you get some better deals for being in the state there and using it. They collect fees, they collect interest on it, they distribute it. DraftKings, like, why wouldn't DraftKings want a stablecoin now where you would be incentivized to hold more money on their app and earn 3 to 4%? They're earning more on it on the back end, and they get more people using their platform, and they're earning more money, and it's an everybody win situation. So I think that all of these themes are going to be coming to fruition. And I have another one I want to talk about in a minute, but I think there's never been a better time to be in crypto.
And that's the thing, like you're mentioning, like it's hard to, because we know how vast this will spread, like it's very hard to convey this to your friends who aren't exposed. Right. And it's like you're saying, like, oh, I don't talk about it in public very often. Like my friends know that they can ask me anything about this and I'll talk about it ad nauseum. Like to a point where they're like, all right, Nill, we get it. Like, yep, crypto, we got you. Like that's your stuff. And like it was the same thing like 3 years ago when I was like, I want to work in the space full time. Like it's my goal. That is what I'm putting my North Star on. Like whatever happens is like it's a side effect of me looking for that professional avenue. And all my friends were like, yo, Nill, like real volatile, just like put your money in your Roth, like put your money in this, like be reserved. I'm like, yo, I'm 29, like not getting any younger. Like there's a few times in your life where you're able to take big swings and when you're uniquely positioned. And like, and as a human, like every human has this desire to like find their purpose, right? Of like, what can I impact the most? Like, how can I make others feel like I'm doing good? And I know that my good is in this space, impacting the future of accessibility of a technology that we've never seen before, right? So that passion alone fuels me to like educate and be knowledgeable. But when we go to talk to this about like in our regular friends, and they haven't acknowledged that, like, you know, a common thing that I get from my people is like, oh, why would the internet evolve? Like, all I say when people are like, oh, why are you so bullish on crypto? Why are you so bullish on blockchain? I'm like, it's just a natural evolution of the internet. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, it's just more accessibility to the internet than we've ever had before. It's more ownership for things. It's more detail. You can manipulate what you do with your finances more often. Like, it's just the natural evolution of the internet. And their common like comeback is like, well, something else will come along. And I'm like, yeah, like something else will come along. That's fine. But like in the same breath, like you have to realize that like this is a step-by-step evolution. Like, and blockchain is the most efficient solution for how we can operate right now. And it doesn't, like, if we scale effectively and we do all the things and we make all these goals and we hit all these checkpoints for how blockchains scale, it almost can take care of everything. Like eventually we're going to have, internet accessibility all over the world and decentralized access to it and all these things. So because it does so much and because there's so much of a broad scale, people have a hard time conceptualizing that, right? Where everyone, most of my friends are, crypto is make money. That is their like perception of it, where I'm like, yeah, sure, for sure. Speculate all you want. Crypto for me is like give accessibility, change the way that we do things. And those like conversation points are the ones that I always I lean back on, but they're the hardest to digest because they are so large at this point.
Well, because paradigm shifting technology and general purpose technology actually diffuses much. I was talking to my co-author Scott about this. He's obviously a Harvard Business School professor. He talks about market design, so he has a deep expertise on this. And Scott mentioned that the diffusion of technology for general purpose technology is much harder and much longer than specific technology. So think about it. If someone makes a better ski boot, the better ski boot has a clear purpose, a clear understanding, and that person uses it, and that person uses it for that purpose alone. If someone makes a better screwdriver, that screwdriver is better than what they have before, and therefore it makes it better than what they used before. It's very easy to understand. Explaining blockchain to people and the general purpose of it, it has such a vast usage. I remember when we were talking to our editor at first about NFTs. So they greenlight the book, and she's like, and she kind of got it, but she'd be kind of pressure testing with friends. She'd be like, so it's just a better ticketing solution? I'm like, yeah, it's that, but it's much more than that. And she's like, well, so it's a better usage for like memberships? We're like, yeah, but it's much more than that. And she'd be like, yeah, but, and when you're explaining how you can use these things, like when you explain an NFT as a ticket to someone, it's like, okay, it can help take care of the scalping industry because it verifies that ticket's real. That's cool. But then you go down the line of like, but then also it can be used for random verification. If you're at a Minnesota Vikings game and they want to bring you down on the field, they can do randomization very easily. Or they can have people before the game get upgraded tickets, and they can sell that ticket on the secondary market knowing it's been upgraded and it's right there in the metadata. And oh, this other ticket can win a signed jersey from Justin Jefferson. But that can also be sold as an NFT. Or you get into the idea that you could collect all of the season tickets, and then you could get a special hoodie to show you were a fan of the team because you went to every single game, but you missed one, so you can buy it on secondary, and that's another application. Or you have a fan fest you can't attend because you're traveling, but you could sell that fan fest ticket to someone for $10 before the season, and all of these things. But it's so confusing for people who just want it to be a specific type of technology. Like an NFT is a picture you own. Crypto is just money. And it's like, no, crypto is like, they're like, why do I want to own this? I'm like, I don't know. If you could own and secure cloud computing credits for the internet and be able to own those, like crypto is the next base layer of the internet. It helps people do everything underlying. And I think when people see that, they fail to understand like the general purpose of it, and they see it and they're like, why do we need different money? And I start explaining what different blockchains do and the applications and how they work. But it takes a really long time and a really open mind. And it's just one of those technologies you get. Like most people don't understand cloud computing. They just are excited about it, right? Most people don't understand the infrastructure that Amazon runs on. They're happy they push a button and the next day something shows up at their house, right? And that is what people want. They want what the technology does more than what the technology is. Yeah. And so explaining it to your average person, it doesn't come across quite as sexy until they're like, yo, I went to the Cavs game and one person got upgraded. I got upgraded before, so I sold my ticket for twice as much and then got the same ticket for, going and made money going on it. And then I won a jersey. And it's like, once they understand all that stuff, they're like, that's cool. They don't care that the technology works that way. They don't care what it runs on. People don't care about the underlying things a lot. And so it's one of the things I know, and I know like with Polygon, and I think Flow is very similar. You guys talk a lot about your dApp. Yes, you talk about Polygon to those of us nerds who care about it, but like I feel like the dApps tend to be the stars because, and I should just say apps because I know a lot of people don't like the term dApps, but like the apps are the stars because like billions, verifying humans over AI is a valuable tool.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's running on sequencers doesn't matter.
Right. And like, just to reflect on that too, like I'll combine both points here a little bit. Right. And Mark, our CEO, does a really good way of emphasizing, like, if our apps are winning, like we are winning. Like there was a kind of a troll post by Thread Guy, maybe a year ago, where it was like, isn't it wild that Polymarket is actually making more money than Polygon? And Mark like literally clapped back instantly and was like, yes, congratulations for finding the point in the troll post. Like that is literally the purpose, is that we have all of these breakthrough apps that understand that this is the most efficient way to run. Yes, we make fees on the transactions. Yes, we like invest in different companies and make sure that we have like a little bit of ownership of that process and make sure that we make our strategic moves, right? With all the companies we've mentioned here today. But more so, it's like, if we build those efficient rails, people shouldn't need to know that they are there. And that's why the funny thing of being like, oh, Polymarket's on Polygon, oh, Courtyard's on Polygon, like that's not a bug, that's a feature, right? And like I had this big conversation, I'm tying in the last point here. I always like make an effort. Like I've coached lacrosse like my entire life, and like my kids reach back out to me. Like I've had kids that like I started as like a freshman and now they're like graduating college, which makes me feel even older. That has been like 8 years that I've been doing that. But like these kids reach back out and they're like going through business school and they're going through communications and marketing, and they're like getting their senior year and like, yo, Coach Nill, I'm like super lost. like I mean that's a common thing, right? And I have to like reset their narrative a little bit and be like, yo, like 60% of you are just gonna go into a BD field. Like, congratulations on becoming a salesperson, like, or something that you're trying to develop in like an account management perspective. And so I had this one kid reach out. His name's Joe. He's a great, awesome kid. Like went to Penn State. He's a G. Like he was one of my goalies, like one of the top like goalies I've ever coached ever, right? And he goes over to Penn State. He does his thing, and now he's graduating. He's in communications and a marketing direction. He's like, he just wanted to jump on a call because I ran into his mom at Heinen's, like a grocery store local here. And his mom's like, yo, like you were so impactful. Like I really appreciate that. I'm like, dude, can you please tell Joey to call me? And he calls me, and then we set up a call. And we jump on a call. Like 30 minutes turned into an hour, and turned into an hour and a half. We start talking about all this stuff. And he's like, how did you start growing on socials? Like I've been doing socials for like my like rec at Penn State, right? And I was like, oh, I did this, that, and the other thing. And I started, it was rabbit hole to rabbit hole, and started allowing me to grow. And I became like a speaker, and then doing all this cool stuff and working in the industry. And then like the questions, and this is why it's so interesting to see like, you know, my era at 31 asking questions of why, and then the era of 21-year-old asking questions of how. Right, which is like a really different conversation, because this technology, blockchain aside, like just the technology of the internet has been prolific through this generation's entire life. So for them to accept that the internet will evolve is much easier for them than somebody like, you know, my generation, your generation, that saw the internet like born. Right, which is like a different conversation, because like we are accepting this as like, okay, this does this and this does that, and therefore I get this. Where like Joey is asking me questions about like, oh, so like he is leading the conversation. So when I say like, oh, NFTs can do this, like you're saying on ticketing sides, like memberships and proof of ownership, he's like, oh, so if I had this, like, so would this apply to like ID solutions? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, would this apply to like college degrees? And I'm like, yeah, dude, like you're getting it. Like, and for him to lead the conversation because he's so much younger, right? And he's accepted that because the internet is a part of his life and it's going to continue to evolve and grow and do all these things, he is asking the questions of how. How will this evolve my life? How will this continue to give more access to things? And how will this affect my everyday, where my friends are asking why, which is a very different conversation, because they don't understand that they accept that the internet is good and the internet is fine as it is. It's a very Western like ideology as well. Like we have access to the internet. Right? We have cell phones at our hands. I can go anywhere and attach to a mobile hotspot and always have connections, where and this extends into payments specifically for me. That's why I think of it specifically with Polygon. because we have Venmo. Like Venmo works everywhere in the States. I can Venmo anybody for minute cost. It doesn't matter. And then when I want to, I wait 3 days and I pull it back to my bank account. That is not an option for everybody in the world, right? And especially when you're talking about cross-border transactions and moving from country to country and all these things that we have like lifts, like we're talking about losing 20, 30, 40% of the value of your dollar when you're sending money home to your family, right? That's ridiculous. So the fact that we're seeing the evolution like real time, we just have to continue to reset our minds a little bit and realize that this isn't just a thing in the States, a thing in North America, a thing in South America, even. This is a worldwide evolutionary technology. And the people that are going to lead it is that younger generation, because they always ask the how, not the why.
Yeah, some comments from the chat, and then I want to comment on that. Chucko enjoying Big Nill here says, too much out from today's space. We could actually have Captain Stephen Big Nill every day. Love having you on always, Big Nill, but I know you have a big boy job as well, but love having you on for sure. The people are liking it. Jambert said, I miss Artifact. The whole sneaker verification has so much potential. Agree with that. And would even say, I don't know if they still do, but I would check out End State. I know End State's still a company, but End State actually had a sneaker. You want to talk about programmable software. They had a Devonta Smith sneaker, went to Alabama, was a rookie for the Eagles when they put it together. If he had like over 74 yards receiving in a game or some number they figured out, your sneakers would get you a free cheesesteak at a certain place in Philadelphia. So it was a cool like little feature that they had built into the blockchain. And Mel wants to know what level of lacrosse you coach.
Oh, I've coached a lot of different levels, but so I currently am in a hiatus. I have a 2-year-old, so I'm waiting for him. He's already picking up a stick and all those kind of things. But I've coached. I was the head coach, so I coached at a local high school, my alma mater, Ignatius. So it's like a private school that's in the area.
You coach at Ignatius?
Yeah.
I didn't realize you coached at Ignatius. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, like I guess I'm like,
no, this is like one of those schools that like feeds athletes to colleges that then go pro in like every single thing. It's like competitive to get in and has a tuition that's competitive with colleges now. And it's like, you have to like get accepted. Like people put on their lawns, I was accepted. My son got accepted. My son to St. Ignatius. My son got accepted to St. Ignatius in like a bold lettering because it's a real thing. So that's actually, I didn't realize that was, my brother went to Benedictine, but it's nice. Funny you say that. Yeah. He was a multi-sport captain at Benedictine actually, but you, so sorry, keep cooking because I was.
No, you're good. So like I'm on both sides of the ball. I'm like public versus private. Like I went to Shaker my entire life, and then like I was just in the middle ground. I wasn't doing as well, and so my parents were like, all right, like think about going to a school. It's gonna like kind of like shrink down like the attention on you a little bit more, which helped me and obviously grew me a lot. So that really was an effective route for me, right? So I went to St. Ignatius, graduated in 12, and then went to college and I played lacrosse as well. So like I did like the D3 life. So like grinder life was like my entire world was like playing lacrosse goalie. Which is like kind of translates very well. It's like field captain. It's kind of like quarterback of your defense. So that translated well into coaching. And I coached for 9 years running total. Did summer ball. I did all this other effort. I was originally our head coach of our JV team. And then we actually have 3 teams at Ignatius. We have like a varsity B program that plays like all the Division 2 teams in our area. So like our varsity B plays Division 2 teams. Our varsity A plays varsity Division 1 teams. And I was the head coach for our varsity B team as well. And then assistant defensive coordinator for our varsity team. And we, again, just to like speak on that as well too, like our head coach is Kyle Bernlor. He's one of the most decorated like goalies of the PLL, which is the Professional Lacrosse League. So like we have like the top of the line coaching on that side. And last year we sent 11 kids to play in college. You know what I mean? And for a team, and for like, if anybody's in lacrosse, like there's 10 people on the field. So it's like basically an entire starting roster that went in to play in college. So like, yeah, like it's one of those like factories that pumps out a lot of like talent. And obviously to give back to my own school and to impact that culture and do all those things, it's something I was very grateful to do. And now it's on pause because got a 2-year-old. He's very young. He's picking up his first stick for the first time ever. He's picking up ground balls in the backyard. But my entire focus is work and family, work and making sure my kid is knowing that his dad, because like practices and stuff, 5 to 7 every single day for an entire spring. My kid gets home from school at 4:30. Like I'm not about to miss dinner time and like home time to go coach other kids. I'll coach again when he's at that age.
You know, it's funny. There's 2 things in there that you were going to say, like one blockchain related, one life related, that I want to drop a quick comment on. I think the blockchain related one is that, you talked about, before you got into that and kind of went into Mel's question, you mentioned the idea that like, I think we take for granted what we have in the States a lot of times, that like we tend to be very ethnocentric. We view the world through the lens in which we are raised in without realizing that things are done differently elsewhere. And by the way, sometimes that's not necessarily worse. Like I've been to a bunch of different countries. They live things, not even a bunch of different countries. I've been to a couple different countries. I'm not as well traveled outside of the States. Like I went to Paris and Lisbon last year for the first time for some NFT stuff. I want to get over to Japan. I hear people talk all the time about it being such a different lifestyle, but not better or worse, just different. And I think we sometimes get very caught up in our own stuff. And the truth of the matter is that outside of our world, like if you flee a country of unrest, and we've talked about this, we talked about this in our book. It's like if you flee a country of unrest, the idea that you need to leave and the government takes your money, you don't have your teaching degrees, maybe you're a teacher and you don't have your teaching degree and all these other things. The idea that you could go across, remember a 12-word phrase and have your money without the government frisking you or getting your things out of you off the blockchain, without your teaching, with your teaching degree codified to be like, look, I taught and there's this actual thing that proves it, not me just saying, trust me in this other country. Oh, there's a piece of paper I might have forged. It makes a difference. And I think, you know, if you're looking at it from an American standpoint, to your point, you might say, oh, it's whatever. But like, I had a situation where someone borrowed a lot of money from me at one point, a family member who I trust, who paid me back, of course. And when they paid me back on the 2nd of July last year. And the money hit my account. I was like, great. Because I actually need to pay my credit card bill. So I'm going to pay my credit card bill that I kind of like covered them for on something. And then the 4th of July hits, and then their bank decided they didn't think that it was a legit transaction. And then the 5th of July hits, and I have a negative balance on my credit card, an issue. Now, I worked with the credit card company. They were totally like, okay, we get it. This sort of thing happens. But we were actually, we were in a place that didn't have great reception. We were on our Alaskan cruise at the time, and the person's calling their bank, trying to get in touch, trying to get them to approve the transaction, go through. That money went through, showed up in my account, got taken back out of my account, and then was finally brought in by like July 9th. Okay. So you're talking about a week of time to get this thing settled out because it was a lot of money in a big transfer. Well, stable coins, it would have been there in about 30 seconds and it would have been done and would have been finished. So the blockchain makes it more efficiently there. Even in the idea of sending money, like you said, across border payments, people think it's really simple. It's not as simple as it seems for a lot of people, particularly when they're big numbers. And so just understanding how to send money to your family, how to send money to other people across borders, like that point makes sense. The other thing you said on there, and then we could probably hit some news, but I think it's a good life advice piece. You talked about what you're doing with your kid, with your family, about how you're, trying to optimize that time. I am very aware that when I go fishing with my daughter on a Sunday afternoon when I could be doing work, I've taken 2 hours out of my pocket from my hustling and my work, and I am 1,000% willing to make that trade-off. My daughter's 13, going to be 14 soon. My son is 11. I've got 7 more years until I don't see them very often. I'm lucky if I see them once a week after 7 years from now. I see them every single day. They live in my house. It's so important. So to me, I optimize those times knowing if I want to go chase the bag and get rich and work not that I don't work really hard, not that I don't try to do my best, but if I want to like really, really make the push, I can do that in 7 years and the world will still be there waiting for me. But it's about what's important to you. I'm not saying that's for everybody, but when you talked about not coaching lacrosse or not taking certain things, there are certain things I do and don't do because of my family. And it's just what I optimize for. It's not for everybody, but being a husband and being a father is the most important job I have. It sounds cliche, but it's the way I see it. And then after that, I'm a, worker. I'm a crypto commentator. I do what I can. That's what's important to me. So at least for me, like when you mention that part of it, I think that's I think it's a good thing for people to think about. But
and I'll just make a comment on it too. Like Steve, like it's my buddies are always like, let's take a trip here. Like, let's go for draft day for our fantasy league. They're like, oh, like let's hit up like, the Keys. Let's go to like anywhere right in the States and we'll set up a draft day vibe and we'll do the vacation thing. And I'm like, gents, like I hate to be this person, like, but if it's not for my family or not for my work, I'm not doing it right now. Travel wise, I can't. I'm just in too much of a zone right now where it's like I want to spend time with my son. my wife, like my wife's expecting another one now, so like we're growing the family.
Congrats,
So it's like,
that's awesome.
thank you, brother. Yeah, I'm gonna be girl dad, so like let's go. Yeah, so sharing that like boy girl life, it's
I was
gonna be
gonna say
fun.
one of each flavor. That's what I got. It's the best. It's the best.
I know, I'm excited for it, man. So it's gonna be really special, obviously. But like I want to impact that, number one. And then my additional like life is like traveling for conferences. And a lot of it's like traveling for Web 2 conferences right now because I'm impacting like consumer RWAs on Polygon. Like that's one of my niches for business development. So I'm like very focused on like these massive conferences for in the Web 2 world. But like that takes me away from my kid, right? So like I can't imagine being like, oh, dad's just gonna go do this for me right now when I'm in such a critical time of my professional growth. Like I'm in such a critical time for my family growth where like we're having kids and we're doing things and we're deciding on schools and all this kind of stuff. And then I'm having such a critical time in my employment at Polygon and in the greater Web3 space because I know right now is go time. Like especially at where we are in this industry, like the impact that you make, and this, and you can probably say this about any time in the space, right? And that's what's great about it. But the impact that I make right now, I know can proliferate through my entire life, right? So like, I just can't imagine stepping away from number one, my kid, just to do something for just me for now, right? There will be a time where I want to do that and have time with the boys and go on. Like I still go on a bachelor party. That's fine. Like it's your boys' time to celebrate that. I'll do that. But past that, just going for a casual trip on like a golf thing or like whatever it may be, I just can't justify. I can't justify it to myself. So I'm not going to go ask my wife to do it. So it's like, it doesn't even make sense to even approach the question and do those things because I know right now it's the highest impact time for my career and my family life. So I got to lock in on those two purposes.
Yeah, you got to make it work. I mean, it's like, to me, that's one of the beautiful parts about crypto conferences and crypto events for me personally is like, I'm going to go to Ape Fest and there is some work stuff I'm doing there. There's some fun stuff I'm doing there, but I know that I'm going to hang out with one of my Tebow who is often in this space and my buddy on the timeline. Like he was a groomsman at my wedding. He was somebody who I've known for 25 years. He's in the club and him and I will get to hang out together. Cap and I will get to hang out together. Other friends, I'm going to see at Ape Fest, Raheem and other people and Grateful Ape. And it's like, you have this decentralized family. And I think that's one of the nice parts about crypto as a industry when you work in it is that is one of the upsides is when you go to those things. Yes, you're working. Yes, you're always on. You're not like that guy who's out there getting, completely hammered at an event and being, but at the same time, like you're able to unwind with a group of people who you truly, truly like and enjoy and know. And that's how I find that balance. Cause yeah, very similar to you, the balance, I will tell you, you want to know where the balance really gets crazy is this year we went to Hilton Head with 18 people, 8 adults, 10 kids. And it was awesome. Like all the adults had their own room with their own ensuite, so we were all good. But like, that's where I start making that balance of time because like now my kids are of the age where it's like we did that and we went camping at a local spot with we grabbed cabins with the same families we went to Hilton Head with, and it's like a couple of those like sometimes a weekend, sometimes a little longer. That stuff will still like it's that priority I put in place, but like. If I'm going to be taking vacations, like that's the other part that actually gets good is that if your kids get parents that are cool as friends, which is the best, then you actually get to double dip there as well. Yeah. So I double dip there. I double dip at these conferences, but it's not to your point. Like my buddies are like, hey, let's go on a trip to New Orleans or something. It's like, I can't just hop on a plane and take 4 days to, 5 days to just hang because I'm using that time efficiently as possible. And, it's important. And to your point, I'm trying to maximize all my upside right now. So Jambert saying, hope to meet you and Cap at Basel this year. Jambert tentatively planning to go to Basel. So we will see if I hit our Basel or not, but that's the plan at least at the moment. And
a man faded Basel last year. I know you did, but it was appropriate. Yeah. But you didn't have the vibes and it was all good. And that was a part of it. So
yeah. This year, I think I'll be back there. It was just, I realized I'm like, I don't know if I have a purpose and I could probably save some money doing this. And so made a couple judgment calls on it, but I think this year probably Miami in December when you are in Ohio is a very appealing thing to do. But look, that said, let's do this. I'm going to do the daily market update, powered by our friends over at ApeCoin as we close in on the 9 o'clock hour. And then we'll talk a little bit about the market and a couple of things going on here. But good discussion for this first hour. As always, give us a like, a retweet, a comment in the room if you're out in the X space land. I think probably starting a new giveaway contest tomorrow, which we're excited to do. So jump on in here and we'll get into this update.
The daily market update straight to your brain. Powered by ApeCoin, no hype, just gains. Moving on 8chain, we bringing the heat. NFTs, fence alpha, never miss a beat. 8chain on top, now we bringing the flex. The home of NFTs, these now what's next. Come on, my head top, but you want the time to chop off for one time.
It is time for the daily market update powered by ApeCoin, the home of NFTs. ApeChain has it all, bringing culture, fun, and community to the blockchain. Also the home of Project Raid. ApeCoin is moving to Solana, Hyperliquid, and continuing to drive and give people more access to the asset. Dive in and see why ApeChain is on top. Let's look at the markets this morning. We've talked about them a little bit here. We'll talk about some majors up top first. Get a little zoom in here for those who are watching on the stream. Bitcoin relatively flat, sitting right around 112. It feels like it's been a stable coin between, say, 111 and 114 for the past maybe 3 months. So hitting that, hit the run up first before the rate cuts and it's cooled a little bit. Ethereum, a lot of people were saying it was threatening to go down below 4,000, approaching 4,200, down about 7% on the week, but hitting some green numbers. And like I said, stabilizing. We'll go to some of our favorites. I know that I have the portfolio set up with some of the favorites that we talk about on this show recently, so we will hit those as well. Solana down a little bit today, hit that 250 mark all the way back down to 220 here, but a little cool off was probably in order. Hyperliquid continues to fall just a little bit, down about 3% on the day, 10% on the week. We'll talk about why that might be here, I think, in a minute with Aster pulling in a competitor. I want to talk DeFi chains in general. Pengu continues down about 10% on the week as well. ApeCoin up at about 54 cents there, continuing to cook a little bit with that, down about 7% on the week, but having that recovery. Rex still down 25% on the week is still a wild number, and Pump doing a little bit of a cool off as they've been pulling through as well. We're going to check out the NFT market, see what's happening on there, because I know the NFT market has been a little more stable than most. CryptoPunk's down, but that's okay. It's still about a $200,000 floor, a wild number to say, considering at one point people were debating if CryptoPunks were going to get flipped by Bored Apes and Pudgy Penguins a few years ago, and here they are at $200,000. Bored Apes down about 1.5% on the day, still sitting at about 9.29 on that floor price. Pudgy's still down about 1%, 10.23. I've been following Squiggles for a while. I said I should have bought a Squiggle when they were about 2 ETH. I should have bought a Squiggle when they were about 2 ETH. Moonbird's recovering from that pullback. I know they were above 3 ETH, down back up to about 2.72. Little Pudgies flat on the day, and Mutant Apes flat on the day, despite that big sweep from OpenSea. Meebits continuing to see a big play from that strategic reserve that they had talked about. And that was the daily market update brought to you by our friends over at ApeChain. ApeCoin making its move over with Project Raid. ApeCoin on top, ApeChain on top. I want to talk about this concept of Aster a little bit here, because we did talk about Aster a little bit at the beginning. You mentioned you took a long out on Aster. CZ seems like it's coming for Hyperliquid. Aster recently announced a second airdrop that's going to come in about 2 weeks. You can trade Hype with up to 300x leverage on there. Aster's up to $1.68.
$1.94 on my chart, brother.
Oh, wow. I had been checking this morning on it, so it's up a little bit more on it. So I think I have my numbers crossed there. I think that actually might be I think I looked at my note from yesterday. It is $1.92. I must have been looking at my note from yesterday. So big move in the past 24 hours or so. Yeah, exactly what I was looking at. I was looking at my numbers from yesterday. So big move going up. I want to get your take. I'll give you kind of two premises here, and you could say it's not an either or. It could be somewhere in between. But I've heard people be like, oh my God, is it going to kill Hyperliquid? Obviously, Hyperliquid's got a competitor. We have seen that, no, like Pump Fun had a bunch of competitors, and that didn't necessarily play out super well, although Pump Fun wasn't run by CZ, who's an absolute stone cold killer. Do you think we see Hyperliquid and Hype EVM have some issues with this pullback? Do you think that we are going to be able to see a multitude of DeFi chains? Obviously, Katana incubated over a Polygon. That's one I really like. Some great yield earning vaults over there. Some great opportunities to play around over there with some white labeled products they have on there as well. Really good user interface. Do you think we have multiple DeFi chains survive? Do you think we see consolidation? what's your take on this whole? Because it feels like the two things that people are pushing really hard right now are stable coins and DeFi chains. Like those seem like two big themes going on right now. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I think, it's going to be different. And again, this is all coming back to like that, the original point of like regionally, it's going to be different for everybody. Right. And like I was listening to Leap Space last night and it gave me a very interesting perspective from like he had like some of the top traders on stage with him. Right. Like QWERTY, Gwei, Renaissance, like just some like really OGs of the OGs, but they also had like the other side of the ball too. Is kind of funny, like Orangey and Frank and like Rasmer, right? So it was like two sides of the trading arc, which was very interesting to see, like the bounce back and forth between these two parties. It was like the traditional traders who look at data and look at numbers, and the hype traders that look at like momentum and swings and like the capital markets and all this other stuff, right? So like seeing both sides of them like debate like what is this supposed to be is very interesting. I think that regionally everybody will have their products of preference, right? And like what Binance has done, like in the world scope, is very interesting. And obviously, like CZ being like the quant of all quants and like all the things he's gone through, that is a very interesting narrative that they are going to focus on. But like that side of the world, and again, I'm talking like APAC region, like just not Western, essentially. They don't care about the things that we care about at all. Like they don't see the value in like the way that we've approached this market at this point, right? So like my estimation about this and why like Aster is very interesting to me is like they have always valued infrastructure and accessibility over like virality. Which is like what we've cared a lot about, right? Like everyone, we had like a meme coin super cycle, and like people in APAC didn't sniff those things, right? They weren't trading FWOG or Giga or MOG or all these things that we were like poking at over the last like 2 years. Like they were trading like their own infrastructure plays, right? Like Clara was one of those things that was brought up in the space yesterday, and it was like none of us had seen this before, but it was a coin that had like 6 months of no red candles and went all the way up to $240 million market cap. And people were like, we never even heard of this thing before. And so just a very different exposure point. And if you like dive into like the white paper, obviously there's a lot of like little details on like Aster of like why it's going to have success. Like there's the dark pool aspect, there's like CZ pumping things, but there's also like, they will be developing a chain, right? And while I think like Hyperliquid I'm a hype bull, Hyperliquids will survive. We have enough traders on our side of the world that are going to believe in it. And what we have also is loyalty on what hype is really done. I think that like, even though people are like, yes, I'm exposed to Aster, they were like, I'm still hype bold. Like I'm not changing my position in hype at all because like at this point, the product's better. Like 100%, like Hyperliquid's product is seamless. It's clean. It has a lot of cool integrations that you can move your money around in, and it gives you accessibility to something very cool, right? But Aster is like obviously going to do the same thing in the Eastern front. And because now they're talking about developing more infrastructure with a blockchain and with all these different accessibility points to like crypto, it will have its own niche. And I'm not a person who is a winner take all in this ecosystem. As you all know, like I joined Polygon because I believe that in multi-chain solutions to the ag layer, and I believe that that's the way that we should evolve in our future. So regionally, I do believe there's enough room for both to have success. Now, does that mean that hype has maybe a little bit less explosive success? Maybe. Right? Maybe price targets should be adjusted from like that 250 call out that people are calling for hype to like 200. And maybe Aster doesn't run all the way up to like a fabled Binance level, but it settles around like 20 to 30 because we're later in the cycle. So like, again, these aren't like predictions for me. This is what I'm hearing from people because I do trust those traders, because these are people that like, this is their full-time job of like, hey, I trade like Yogi and all these like interesting traders from the market. That's what they're looking at. But that's kind of my summation of it, is just like, it's going to be a regional thing. All these different places will have different access to technology. And because people don't even pay attention to some of the stuff that we've given all of our attention to, we should just respect it for like the accessibility that it provides.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you mentioned, I think the space that you were listening to last night, that would be an interesting one to listen to, because one of the things I find is that we are so insular to our communities. Like NFT people don't necessarily know about meme coins. Meme coin people don't necessarily know about Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid people don't necessarily know about other DeFi protocols. Like it's such an interesting thing where it's like, like, I'll give you an example. Like, obviously, we mentioned Katana, which is like, I'm a fan of it. It was incubated over at Polygon. It's got, ag layer. Like, it's sort of the idea that it's combining like a whole bunch of things into one place. And it's actually a very user-friendly platform. I've shown it to people. They're like, oh, this makes sense, right? For people who are new to DeFi, I tell them to go to Katana. Getting someone to use Katana who uses Hyperliquid is like pulling teeth, even though they are both DeFi chains. Again, I personally, and this is like probably me just being a boomer, but like, I will take vaults that are earning yield, and anything that I'm LPing, I will have a vault with yield that has that on, so I can offset potential impermanent loss. So if I have impermanent loss from like things sliding one way or the other, I've got my ETH or my Hyperliquid stake during a vault. It's earning 7%, 10%, 20%, whatever that number is. And then therefore, it's offsetting any potential impermanent loss while also earning points through an airdrop, et cetera, right? These are sort of strategies I use. Well, I find that getting people to go to other products can be really, really tough. And look, hand up, I use MetaMask since 2020. And it took me forever to switch over to Rabby only recently, which is a better user interface. That just is a better product right now. So I get it. Like we sometimes are like hesitant to those moves, even in our space. I just think it's funny because I think a lot of people don't know. It's so funny how we mentioned earlier that crypto is such a general purpose technology, that the idea of the blockchain is very general purpose. And so you mentioned you go to a bunch of IRL things for RWA, which is a massive sector, massive opportunity. A lot of people don't even know about Courtyard, BZ, people who are tokenizing homes on the blockchain, all of these things that are like massive, massive plays. The idea that, RWAs are only increasing, especially as like, the Pokemon cycle is going on. It's getting hotter right now. Like, I think people neglect and take that for granted. And I just think that it's a space where one of the reasons I don't do very well on a lot of Kaido leaderboards in general is because I'm so interested in the whole space that I want to learn about everything. I want to learn about all the stuff that's going on, which means that I'm not digging deep on any one individual specific thing necessarily. So I think that that's one of those things when you talk about like the traders understanding it. I was with you in the meme coins, by the way. It's so funny because I sort of laid down the sword and gave up in December, which was just a little early before everything just crashed down. But my take on meme coins was like, look, it's a zero-sum game. I'm not good at it. I'm not in the insider groups and the insider cabals that get tickers early and say, hey, let's move this thing up, which sometimes it had legitimate momentum. Sometimes it didn't. Turns out there was a lot of shenanigans going on, as we found out with the sort of, Hayden Davis and, Kelsier, issue that we had with the Malay coin was sort of the, one that really sent it over. But I was never good at that or in on that or printing or making money off that. And other people were. Eventually I laid down my sword, but it was like, I just accepted. I don't know this. It's not my sector. I want to learn enough about it to understand why people like it, because I think it's important to understand markets and understand consumer behavior, but I'm not going to play it. And I think like, some people just, and then I laid down my sword like probably like 2 weeks before everything went down and was like, man, I probably should have stuck to my guns on this one. But I just think it's like you can never learn about everything in crypto. It is an endless place. And I think to your point, putting it back on the tracks, I mean, my thesis is multiple DeFi chains can survive the same way that multiple brokerages survive. Fidelity exists and, Robinhood exists and all these different brokerage houses that offer a variety of their Charles Schwab exists. They all exist. I think we're going to see multiple DeFi products because as long as they're not super commoditized and you continue to offer different deals and different opportunities, and as long as you can offer different user interfaces, you're going to get people who are brand loyal to one or the other. And what I think will be interesting to see is I think Hyperliquid and Hyper EVM is so crypto specific that it is capturing this crowd and this group of people who are sharp and excited right now. But if I show Hyper EVM to a friend who just is into even traditional finance, even options traders, they're going to look at it and be like, I can't, what is this? Where do I have to move money? What buttons do I have to press? How does it work? If I show them Katana, a lot of them can. And so I just think that there's going to be different products and different specialties and niches. But I just think that there's an opportunity for multiple brands and companies to win.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's the thing, like, Everyone, we're so encamped in our certain areas at this point, right? And that's the same reason why like I'm not a leaderboard chaser until like I understand like the product and like why it's impacting certain ecosystems that I interact with. And I think that's like I've actually leaned heavier into like wall chain than like I have into Kaido, because I think that it paints a different picture, and it's a little bit more accessible for me. And so like I just kind of like slow down on those things, right? And I got like a nice little airdrop from like Covalent, and like I've been doing Eliza and those kind of things because I understand them, like, right, like it's an AI interface, or like it's it's like a data sharing tool, like those things make sense, right? But to like the greater point here, it is the direction that we should be focusing on, is how much vaster can we improve ourselves with the things that we love. Like, again, I wasn't a good meme coin trencher, but I really understood that like there is an importance to understand why things go viral. Like that's a trend that I needed to understand. Like I wasn't a big DeFi person, and then I understood why like yields make sense and why it's evolutionizing banks, and then and Katana led me to that. And in the same way as like I wasn't a big like trader or perps person, but then I learned about hype and I was like, damn, like okay, I understand why people want to take these positions, and like this is the cycle. And Rudo is somebody that's very like bullish on this aspect. Is like he said this line in another space the other day. He was like, you will hold nothing and like it. And that is what that is what people want right now. Right. And that's why perps are making sense. That's why prediction markets are winning. It's because people want positions in things, but they actually don't right now value the actual underlying asset and of ownership at this point in the cycle. Right. They're much more comfortable with getting dollar payouts rather than being like, okay, I need to make sure that I have all this token under my roof. It much more appealing to people to make their dollars later in a cycle at this point right now. And I would encourage you to, Steve, if you haven't like, there's a new platform that's like kind of evolving right now called Lurky. I haven't, you know, if you've seen it. Yeah. Lurky's great. And like the AI summary of Leap Space yesterday will take care of all of that. So I've been using them really effectively to not like, I don't even know listen to spaces. I just look at the AI summary and I feel like I got the holistic like sense of it. So this morning after like Leap Space went to like 2-3 in the morning. I don't have time to stay up that late. Right. That's not my energy. But I'll toss the PFP in there to farm some farmers. Farm some followers. But like I just read the AI summary and I was like, all right, yeah, this whole thing makes sense. And like it made me comfortable enough to take out a long. And as we talk live right now, like Aster's about to touch $2 again. And it's like it's getting to a point where like all these things of all these products of all these directions, they're going to continue to provide different regions, different accessibility, which is why I think our focus should be, hey, if it's an opportunity for you to jump in and make some cash, great, but don't fade anything because you don't believe that it's like applicable to you, because good chance it's going to be applicable to somebody.
Well, so you have this thing that I do, and we don't get political on the show very often or anything like that, so I'm not going to go down the political route, but I'll give the example of people wonder why. I was having this conversation. I got in an argument, not an argument, but a debate, I would say, at a late night campfire, my kids' friends on Saturday night, where my kids were hanging out with their friends. I mentioned they have cool parents. It's a cool situation. They have a house, and their neighbor never built on the property next door to them, but they need a neighbor. And the neighbor next door to them said, hey, we're never going to build on here. I think we're going to move. Do you want to buy this property from us? And so now they have this like wooded property next door, a nice lot. And then on the other side is their house. So they've got this really great area. So we joined them for a fire. And there was this big debate going on about like what happened a couple weeks ago with Charlie Kirk and all that stuff. And I was trying to explain to them that I will watch people I agree with. I will watch people I disagree with. I actually consume on the tech spectrum, political spectrum, Web3 spectrum. I will consume things because I want to know, should I change my mind? If I'm not changing my mind, why do they think this way? And do I strengthen or weaken my arguments listening to them, or is there a perspective I haven't thought about? And the point you made about that, like with meme coins, I wanted to learn why meme coins went viral. I wanted to learn why so many people are into DeFi and what it means. Is it just about like, because I was like, oh, it's a whole different language. I don't understand it. And then I started diving in and I'm like, you know what? Like, not only can I do this, I can probably educate people on it because I'm learning and I can explain it as I learn it to people. Like I know when I was explaining liquidity pools, you would comment on one thing. You're like, oh, this makes more sense now. Where it was like, those are the things that I love doing. And those are the moments that matter to me where I explain something and someone's like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, because it is complicated, it is confusing, but understanding how and why things work why people want to be involved with RWAs, why people like, and what they are. It's like, that's what's important to me. It's like the why, the how, and understanding that like most humans are interested in something like not for, they're actually like genuinely interested. Look, are there people and if their interest is because they think there's an opportunity to make money, there's value there too. And so understanding all of those sort of the why behind things is sort of the thing I always try to do. And I was talking to, I was talking to my wife the other day, and we were having this conversation where it's like, I struggle because I find in crypto, I find more people who are willing to sort of listen to a different like sides of arguments on everything. And maybe you have to be naturally open-minded to be here because you had to stumble through a pretty big sort of like Narnia closet to get here, right? Like you had to want to be here. You had to be interested in crypto. You had to understand the concept of it, or at least want to make money on it. Then you had to get money onto a centralized exchange like a Coinbase, and you had to set up a MetaMask or a Rabby wallet, probably a MetaMask for most people. And then you had to get that seed phrase and you had to write it down and understand the security issues. And you had to send it over there. And then you had to figure out how to bridge chains and even before relay and all these other things. Like, I think a lot of people just don't conceptualize that like that group of people tends to be a little more open-minded and a little smarter. Like I always tell people, if you're here, like people talk about us being idiots in crypto time. If you're here, you're smart. I'm sorry. You had to be ingenuitive enough to get money onto the blockchain. And maybe it's because it's here, but in real life, I find people want to play team sports and everything. They have an opinion on something. And instead of holding strong beliefs loosely, as the phrase goes, they hold strong beliefs strongly, often with loose evidence behind it. In fact, the person I was talking to on Saturday night, like great person, friend of mine, all these things, but they make a couple points and I'd be like, can you explain why you think that? And then they would have these things where they were kind of repeating something they might have seen on a TikTok or they might have seen on a YouTube short. And I'm like, that's actually not the whole thing. And I would argue that I've heard that whole thing and know what it's being pulled from. And I think we run into that a lot. And I think in crypto, it's equally important. And I struggle to find people who are that open-minded in my life. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like being here so much is, I talk to someone like you and like, we can have a conversation for hours and I might present to you something that completely flies in the face of your personal beliefs. And you're going to nod your head and ask why, not sit there and immediately be like, you're dumb. Like there's really, it's like, I have these conversations with Scott, who's very open-minded. And like, he'll just be like, when he's like, no, you're wrong. I don't take it as he's attacking me. He's actually telling me why I'm wrong based on a piece of knowledge he has. And so I think that it's such an important skill in life that maybe doesn't exist outside of crypto. I don't know if you have the same experience with friends and family members, but it's something I run into quite frequently.
It's so it is interesting. And I resonate with so much what you said here. It's like, you had to figure this out at some point, or you had to have a moment of realization, right? Like mine was twofold. I was like in the GameStop AMC energy, like back in like 2020, where everyone was like short squeezing and I was watching YouTubers and I was sitting at home and there was a lot of time. And that led me to, and all those YouTubers who were like watching price action of GameStop and AMC were like, hey, like also like you should look at Doge, like Ethereum. It's very similar. It's like take back the power like energy, where it's like, hey, this is about like us versus like the big establishments that have kind of taken ownership for everything. So that led me down that rabbit hole. And then I ended up, doing other degenerate things. And I was gambling on like NBA bubble games, right? And the DraftKings marketplace for NFTs opened up simultaneously to when the NBA bubble games were opening up, right? So I started like minting these like DraftKings NFTs with like a credit card, and it was like Tiger Woods, like Wayne Gretzky, like all these like little digital pictures. They're like $10, $40, $100, and they were like 10xing in like 24 hours. And like I grabbed like 40 of them, and I made a bunch of made a quick buck and all these things. And I was like, whoa, okay, hold on here. So there's like a financial aspect, there's a technological aspect, there's like the ownership aspect. I was like, all right, I got to dive in deeper and understand that. And that's like my own personal experience of why I got here. And just off the rip, like obviously the experience was fantastic because like, yeah, making money is great, but also it's like, it taught me a lot. And I knew if this little piece of exposure taught me this much, there must be this much more, right? Like, and that was a snapshot, right? Of like, oh, streamers talk about Doge, streamers talk about Ethereum. Maybe I should look into that more. And then it was like, oh, I had an experience where I made a bunch of capital, and there was like this whole thing about like a picture on a weird piece of technology. And understand, okay, there's got to be more here. And so I think it's like it's a dual-edged sword sometimes. And it's why a lot of people have issues with like security and hacks and all these things, because we come into this place and we believe that everybody is at a very similar playing field of trust, right? It's like, okay, you're here because you believe in similar things that I believe in, right? And so that level of belief doesn't get established anywhere else as like our foundation, right? You meet a stranger in the streets, you go to a school event, you're at a sporting event, whatever it is. Like maybe there's a level of like, yo, I'm at a Guardians game, so you're a Guardians fan, so I believe in you. But like, and that's why like I resonate sports with crypto a lot, because it's like this like in belief in something. But we have this experience where we all believe in this base layer of, yo, technology is broken in the world that we have currently. I bet you that we can make it better if we all work together, and maybe we'll make some money along the way. That base level belief allows us to operate in with a sense of like, I trust you, so you trust me. So I know that you're not going to be attacking me from my beliefs of other things within this bubble. It's just more so I see the road a little bit differently to essentially achieve this entire goal differently than you. And that's a conversation that can start where in the real world, we don't know what other people's beliefs are when we meet them in different situations. So it's always as if we're attacking their base level of beliefs, where we understand that we all share in the same base level of beliefs here, right? So it's just a different perspective of how we approach things here for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it is and I made this with the PFP analogy at one point. Sports teams with the NFT PFP analogy was one that I used regularly. And I think in crypto, it works in general, where it's like, I will be walking through the Denver airport and I see someone wearing an Ohio State hoodie and I yell OH and they yell IO. No. And I may have never met this person before in my life, never see him again. They could be a horrible human being, right? Like they could be a horrible human being who doesn't return shopping carts and does, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, right? I don't know if this is a person who, is mean to waiters at restaurants, right? Or any of the horrible things that people do that are like those sort of like things that indicate like this person sucks. It's funny. I teach my kids, like, if you see a piece of garbage in the metro parks, you pick it up, you toss it in the garbage, you leave it better than you found it. If you see a shopping cart that's out that someone left, you grab it, you pull it with yours. Why not? Leave the world better than you found it, and you've done your job here on Earth a little bit each day. But, you have people like that who maybe aren't nice on those sort of things. And, it's funny because, like, you have people who you see in an airport wearing an Ohio State hoodie and you high five them. And it's like those things and that sense of tribalism runs deep because you have something in common, right? I think that, like, in crypto in general, I'm glad we're getting to that point where, and I think we've always been at that point, but I think PFP's made it a little more like PvP and the tribalism, where people would say, like, what's your PFP type thing? But, like, generally speaking, if you meet a person if you are out and somebody mentions crypto to you in a public place, like, you light up because you're like, oh my God,
my thing.
I can speak to this person. It's sort of the same thing as, like, somebody the other day, like, brought up college football, and college football is like my favorite sport. It's the one that I watch the closest, like more so than NFL, more so than other things. I went to Ohio State, so I'm a big fan. And I'll talk to somebody about someone who mentioned college football, and they'll show that they know ball a little bit. It's off to the races to talk about like people look at me. I'm like, yeah, John Mateer transferred to Washington State. They just pump out Heisman candidates. Now these wait for Oklahoma. And it's like, it turns into this crazy conversation where I'm like, oh my God, like, it's like meeting someone who speaks your language for the first time. And so I just think, to your point about crypto, like, you have this thing in common where something brought you here that makes you the same. I think X sometimes is divisive because people will say things behind a keyboard, or they'll get fired up, or there's context lost. But it's funny, when I go IRL, I rarely see people having issues at crypto events with one another. It tends to be, let's all hug, let's all have a good conversation, let's all hang out together. So it's just, it's a whole different ball game. So
it was funny. I was at like a card conference. Again, because I'm like diving deep into consumer RWAs, I was at a card conference a year ago, and I went to the exact same conference called the National. It's like 200,000 people who collect sports collectibles, trading cards, like all this kind of stuff. It's an insane event, right? Everyone from like freaking Sotheby's to like Tom Brady is there. It's like a very wide range of like everyone that involves themselves in like this whole sports collectibles scene. And I was speaking to somebody at a booth, and like, I go there because like I like cards, right? Like, I got Squirtle behind me hanging out. I got Shohei Ohtani up here, rookie card. Like, I like collectibles. I like to hold things. Like, I got freaking pudgy penguins in a freaking BGS 10 here. Like, it's something that I like to do. And obviously I got my freaking V friends here hanging out too. So we got sealed product, right? That's how I'm into it. But I was at a dealer's like place, and I was like looking through his cards, and he was like, "Oh, why are you here?" And I was like, "Oh, like I work for like a blockchain. Like I'm actually looking at this from like a business perspective of like how we can bring more security behind this." And he points and he's like, "Brother, do you see my hat?" And he points to his hat, and it's the Cardano symbol, and it's like 80. And I'm like, my dude, like I've like in this whole sea of people who like 50% of the people that I approach this conference are like, "Why are you here?" Like that's irrelevant for me. Like, I'm not sure why your business sent you here as well. And 50% are like, "Oh yeah. Like it's on our roadmap. Like, let's talk. Let's have a good conversation about this," which is great. So it's 50-50 on that side. But to meet somebody in the wild who was just like, "Dude, Charles is my guy," like total normie, like, boomer, or I call it dino coins, right? Investor, like all this kind of stuff. Like he was like, "Yes, like I believe in this. Like I'm so glad that there's a blockchain here who's pitching these companies, because that is the evolution of our space." And you see it with Courtyard, you see it with all these digital pack ripping experiences, right? And shout out to like fun, like Collector Crypt and all those other teams that are out there. There is this evolution that people want accessibility to cards as fast as possible, right? And it's not as much like the old saying of like, "Oh, we need to exchange physical money to have it." Like, I just want to understand that I own something that I like to collect. And that's why all these digital pack ripping, and obviously giving love to Courtyard for leading the space, are winning right now. And now all these companies that see like Courtyard is a startup, right? Was doing 500K volume, like it's like 16 months ago. And then it got to 1 million. And now it's all the way up a year later to over 70 to 80 million per month. Like, they saw that happen in a year's time. And they were like, "Okay, like we need to probably pay attention to this, because if that team is doing it, we might need to take an approach at this as well too," which is why like V Friends is popping off at these shows, right? Which is why so many different communities are showing up, and like they're seeing like this evolution, because cards used to be old dudes that did not want to evolve, that did not want to like have like little experiences like this ever. But now it's like the younger generation is coming in, and they realize if they want to maintain any sort of relevancy and maintain their market share, they have to evolve how they give accessibility to this thing. So it's like, it's very interesting to see like those two worlds.
Yeah, I have this conversation all the time when it relates to the younger generation, and talk about how people age into what they do. And I always give the example of like, look, I played video games growing up. Adults didn't play video games when I was growing up. Now every adult I know plays video games. Everybody 45 and younger is playing first-person shooters with their friends. They're playing, various games, right? Games with their kids. It's awesome. It's not frowned upon anymore. People age into the thing they do. My kids are so digital that my son's friend was over and was looking at his Pokemon card collection. And I pulled up my online collection I have between Courtyard and BZ and everything, and I'm showing them some cards, and they're impressed. They're excited. Even the people of my age, when I showed them the sealed copy of Mario 3 that I have, that's graded, it's like, that's important to me, right? And like, I think they see that digital thing though, and kids are like, "Oh yeah, this digital thing makes sense. Like, I understand why you would want this digital thing. I understand why you have the card." And they're like, "Well, wait, you actually have those?" I'm like, "Yeah, they're in a vault. And if I want to redeem them, I could redeem them. They have their own product." And they're like, "Oh, that's cool," because they don't care. And as the world evolves, they're going to be able to get digital twins of those that integrate into Roblox, Minecraft, Fortnite, whatever, where they're going to be able to say, "Hey, I have this, Pikachu, this Charizard, this, Larry Bird card," whatever it may be that you find interesting, you're going to be able to display. And I think people sometimes don't see, like, I can so clearly see right now. I was explaining to someone at one point who said, "Well, I have a Joe Mauer signed bat. Like, why is your digital thing, I don't get the digital thing," because he was a Minnesota guy. And he's like, "I have a Joe Mauer signed bat." And I'm like, "Well, where is your Joe Mauer signed bat?" He's like, "Oh, it's in my basement." I'm like, how many people see your Joe Mauer signed bat? How many people know you own that? And what is the purpose? You just want to own it to own it? Do you care about it? And it's not about a flex, it's about identity. And it's like, the fact of the matter is, I believe we are going to hit a time when your digital things, which are, whether they are purely digital, like a Bored Ape, a Doodle, a Pudgy Penguin, an MF or whatever, your V friend, and your physical, my my Charizard cards, my One Piece cards, whatever they are, you're going to be able to have them in a place that people can visit you in one way or another or be able to see in a digital way. The good news is, if they're digital, they're not at risk of going in a natural disaster. They're sitting in a secured place where you can show them to people that you own them, and they have more accessibility of viewership. Where if I want to show my friends my card collection, I send them a link to BZ or Courtyard, and they can look. Yep. And if I want to show my friends my card collection, it's like, hey, let me take some pictures and text you. You can come over. I can face them. It's a lot more high friction. And look, people always like to hold physical things in their hand. Don't get me wrong, but like, I think that digital aspect of it, as you're talking about RWAs and cards, I think people they underestimate the fact that anybody between the ages of, say, as soon as they can touch a screen and 16, 17 right now, digitals are more important to them. I tell this story sometimes. My daughter, for her first babysitting job, got way too much money from our friends, and they paid her for it. She used that money to go out and buy a stuffed animal in Roblox in a game called Pet Simulator 99. And she gets the physical item because there's a digital twin that she can get. So when she gets it, the digital twin is actually an item in the game. After she claimed the digital twin, she gave this $50 stuffed animal to my dog to rip up because all she wanted was the digital twin. She didn't care about the physical copy. She wanted the digital thing. And so I think like people underestimate that is what's coming down the pike. The world is not becoming less digital. So these things like RWA integrations and other things like that, I think are super important. So I do think you're spot on that one. Look, a couple of the things I want to hit on this morning, just to make sure we cover a couple of the topics. AVAX is up. It was up today on a day when most things are flat or down. There's a new sort of AVAX strategy, another digital asset treasury coming through. We've seen some of these digital asset treasuries. We're seeing people getting creative with NFTs. We're seeing digital asset treasuries with meme coins or other coins. Digital. There's Pangu proposals for those sort of strategic reserves. Curious your thoughts as someone who works at Polygon Foundation. You obviously have a token. You got the Pole token. I have it staked. What are your thoughts on these digital asset treasury companies and sort of how they're approaching things?
Yeah, I mean, like any accessibility to how our ecosystem works, I think is important, right? And I think that like there's going to be different approaches for all teams on what this looks like in general. Yeah, I mean, I kind of almost want to avoid the question, like a little bit, just
I don't want
because
you to see have a Polygon or how you feel about it. I don't want to put it in a weird competitor spot. So that's perfectly fair. I'll kind of
well, I'll say like I love the team at AVAX. That's what I'll first and foremost say. There's actually a couple people that formerly work at Polygon at AVAX now. Right. And it's just like decided to go in a different direction, made sense for their growth. Like they got a good opportunity because like, as you know, Steve, like in tech, like sometimes you have to move out to move up in an organization. It's just like, that's the naturalness of how this ecosystem works in a startup because there's not as much wiggle room for vertical growth. And so you have to move almost diagonally. Right. So that's like a reason why you have some people over there. And obviously like Vo getting hired over there is super bullish. Like, everything, they're making very unique moves to make sure that they get the visibility that I believe that they deserve. And I think that we're going to do very similar things, right? We just brought on John Egan, who was the head of crypto from Stripe last week, right? And now he's our chief product officer. Like, that's a really bullish move to make sure that we iron out the product. Now, what I will say with our differentiation factor, and I also just want to say, I said all these things that were very bullish about AVAX. So AVAX people, Dorito chain, please be nice to me. We are going to ensure that everything is product and user experience focused prior to us making these hype play moves, right? And so like we have always, and we've learned from our mistakes, right? Bridging, when we launched bridging, was terrible. It was annoying. We created blockchain fragmentation, right? And so what are we doing to solve that? We're building the ag layer. And now we could do all these things right off the rip, right? We could do the ETF move. We could do the DApp move. We could do all these little things. But if our product and our experience isn't as seamless as we know people need for the real world, it's going to fall flat from our perspective, right? So all I will say on this like whole like move of, is this smart for blockchains? Is this the way to go? Give us time. because we've always been strategic in the ways, and that's why we've survived for 5 years at this point, because we understand that there needs to be a better experience for how you integrate into this technology, and not as much just like throwing ideas out and seeing what sticks like other ecosystems might, right? And that's not even a reflection on like what AVAX is doing. It's just kind of like what I see across the board of like different changes being like, oh, we're gonna do this because it's hype move. Oh, we're gonna do this because it's like, yeah, like do that. Like I believe in following narratives, but we're just gonna approach things slower because we've been here, done this before. So give it time, and you'll see very cool things coming out of our camp as well too.
Yeah, I buy that. They sort of, I worked at 2 major companies before going into Web3 full time. I led disciplines at Progressive, and I led disciplines at Nestle. And they had 2 very different sort of strategies. Nestle has an innovation department, but Nestle a lot of times felt like, look, we're Nestle. We want to make sure something's proven and works, and then we can move on it because we're Nestle and we can get away with that. And we also want to understand that we're not putting resources at a hype trend when we have other things that we're building. And again, very similar in the sense like Polygon we've mentioned before, whether it's, privatized blockchains or verifying against AI or consumer-friendly DeFi chains, like, or, RWAs, like Polygon's moving on a lot of proven markets that I think they're beyond the shadow of a doubt are going to exist. If you snap your fingers and you say, does something exist in 10, 15 years? I think those industries that I just mentioned, which are major initiatives under Polygon, payments, right? Like based on your hire, those are all going to exist in 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Will digital asset treasury still be cooking? I don't know. Whereas Progressive was a little more like, hey, we're just going to be the first to try absolutely everything. Like they insured Uber drivers when nobody would touch it. They worked through with a company called James Rogers to white label a product who gets to do some, in front of and look, it played out and it worked out well. They also offered insurance in Australia, and that ended up going for a few years and shut down and didn't end up. They had an Australian version of Flow named Kitty, actually, if people want to find that one. It's a fun little piece of trivia, but like it's like they, they'll take the shots and eat a lot of money doing those sort of things. Both strategies work. Both companies are extremely successful. Both companies do well. So it's not necessarily, to your point you're making, and I think you're making this point, it's not an either or. It's not a, hey, this is right or this is wrong. This is a strategy that we see employed. So I think that's perfectly fair perspective to have overall. So just to get you into a conversation maybe less related to your job, then we'll get you more out of this one and give the escape hatch a little bit. So Moonbird's announced. I claimed some Soulbound token from Moonbird yesterday. It's like an Anna Chess collaboration. I don't even know what it is. I'm like, just give me the Soulbound token. I assume it's going to have some sort of token associated with it, with the Burb token that they're eventually going to come out with, which is almost, I think seemingly guaranteed and expected. Spencer will eventually drop. I want to get your take on another thing, because one of the things I've noticed is like Moonbirds has been doing this thing since Spencer took over, where it reminds me of Bored Apes in 2021. It reminds me of Pudgy Penguins in sort of 2023. It feels like he's doing hard biz dev or someone on his team where they are reaching out to companies and they're just saying, here's another benefit for holding a Burb. Here's another benefit for holding a Burb. I don't see as many communities doing this anymore. Why do you think that is? And what are your thoughts on the idea that it's like, hey, there probably should be, I'll flat out say my opinion, there probably should be a full-time or part-time job where you hire somebody who is just your collab manager who goes out and says, if you hold this asset, we are going to get you X, Y, and Z advantage. It might be $20, it might be $200, it might be $2,000, it might be soulbound, it might be something, but they're just out there doing the work. What's your opinion on that? And why do you think we haven't seen as many companies doing what Spencer is doing at Moonbirds as the new kid on the block?
Yeah, man, it's a masterclass over there at this point, right? And you see like all the moves they're being making with like Kaido and like all these kind of integrations, and just very unique at this aspect. But I'll relate it to like the internal like ecosystem work. So like, I mean, Moonbird's still an ecosystem, so it relates very well. Like Vo got her job because of she's a badass BD lead, right? She does ecosystem work very strong. But in addition to that, she has exposure and is one of the lead voices on CT. Naturally, she will get those BD leads, right? And it's something that like I worked with Vo. Vo was my manager at Magic Eden for a year, right? And so like to learn from her, and I always watch how she moves, because I think it's a very excellent, like it's again a masterclass of how you should operate here in the space. Like I am mimicking that a lot right now. Right? Like I'm putting myself in rooms so that people see me. And I would say from the last 2 months, I would say 60% of my leads are sourced from people seeing me visibly somewhere, right? Like it's that high at this point, right? And I'm going after prediction markets that amplify what Polymarket does. I'm very bullish on layering on top of what Polymarket can do, right? So like AI integrations, data platforms, mobile apps, right? So like that kind of leverage the markets that are already in existence. Very bullish on that aspect. And then I'm putting myself in the position to make sure that people understand that my voice is going to have weight here, right? Like when I'm pitching like why you should build with us, I'm like, well, it's because we have myself, we have Smokey, we have Rudo, we have Sandeep, we have Mark. We're 5 of the loudest people on CT right now. Like, congratulations for not only getting like an amazing ecosystem to build in, but you also just got 5 KOLs that will never stop talking about you, right? And that's what Vo's benefit is right now, and that's why Coop is very beneficial. That's why Boobits is very beneficial on the AVAX side, because they're doing the dual wielding sword of not only is this a BD relationship, but we also have juice in this ecosystem to make sure that you feel like you're connected to more people. And so I also see this very effectively, and I'll say this about like a competitor to Polymarket, Kalshi right now. Man, like Kalshi is doing the work. They are going out and they are giving Dancing Eddie and Jonah badges, and they're reaching out directly to Camel and saying, hey, how can Kalshi get better? Right? Like they are doing organic on the boots on the ground user acquisition with high impact individuals that know they can move the market. So like relating this all back to Moonbirds, like this is the trench work that people remember, right? Like this is the I am here with you, so you should lock in with me work that we need to commit to. Because if we're not like at that perspective, if like people will choose a blockchain for a lot of reasons. They'll see other people building on it. They'll see the vibes. They'll see the grants or the investment opportunity, all these kind of things. But you know what people will really lock in with is people that they believe they can trust and people that they believe they can ride with long term and bet that when shit gets tough, when we need more resources, when our product isn't going the right way, I have somebody else that's almost like a consultant to them. And that's what Vo is. Like Vo is an advisor to many platforms. Vo knows how shit works out here. She knows how to move differently. And that's what she can provide these teams that then they will be able to collaborate. And that's why Moonbird is having success. That's why Kalshi is taking over market share. That's why all these interesting platforms are growing the way they are, because they've committed to like the dirty work, right? The work that really people don't see behind the scenes until somebody posts about it. Like Camel made a post yesterday. It was like, yo, Kalshi team's been in my DMs. I'm on Kalshi now. Like GG's. Like, let's get after it, and I'm riding with it. And like, that's fair, right? If you believe that you have that trust, and I think that the Polymarket team will move very similarly. I think they're still establishing themselves, and they're still doing a lot of like work on like the US regulation side. So they're very like in those depths. I will also say, if you go over to the Polymarket ecosystem and you go over to their affiliates, there's an area called Polymarket Builders. They've assigned badges to like 25 other different projects that are building inside of the Polymarket ecosystem. So they're approaching this. Their first step is the builders aspect, where Kalshi just announced that they're doing the Solana and Base like builders network. Like Polymarket's already doing that. So you can see them both running in this race, right? And it's very interesting to see the different approaches of how we get how they get adoptions quicker. But in the end, like, people want to trust people, and product will win out when that experience is very similar. When product is very similar, people will lean back on who they can trust more or less.
Yeah, I might be my internet might be wigging out again. Sorry if I was I was bumpy there for a second. But no, I think it's a good point. And I think actually that the point that you made there too, that I think people miss, is they think like, I've seen a lot of people who get it wrong on, like, I talked about like Vo being hired, and I worked with her a little behind the scenes on some stuff at one point, and I'm like, she works a lot of hours and a lot of time and grinds, and like they see it and they're like, oh, people are getting hired for being KOLs. Look, I get it. Like, there are situations where if you hire a KOL to do a job that's not a KOL job, it's a problem. But like, that's not what's happening there. And a lot of times it's no different than if you're a business development professional in the 90s or the 2000s, you went out and you went to events and you had conversations. And like, I get it. When I worked for Progressive, because Progressive is a big name and big checks, and I was going to a lot of conferences, like I would show up at a conference and I would have 40 people pitching me who were at that conference. And maybe one of them was someone we'd want to work with. But like, they're out there shooting shots. Now, this is a digital version of that. And I think people just like get that wrong, where it's like being visible and active on the timeline and being good at starting conversations and having people respect you and have that conversation means that when it comes time to say working with someone, you're getting a warm intro or a warm lead. Like when we're looking for sponsors for the show, like we mentioned, I'm bringing in one tomorrow. Like it's like people I've met, people I've discussed, people I've like use their products and their brand accounts have applied to me. It's a little bit easier to get in a DM and get in a call when you've had that relationship and they're like, oh yeah, this person's legit. They're here for the right reasons. They've done things with no expectation in return. And now they're kind of having the conversation. And most of the time you'll find those people have a conversation with you and nobody comes on and they're like offended if there's not a fit or whatever. Like there's a very large company in this space that I've talked to at one point that, we haven't found a fit to work together yet. They're transparent with me. I'm transparent with them. No one's offended. It's just how the game works. So yeah, I think that people sometimes get it way wrong where they think like, oh, KOL getting hired for this job. And they don't realize that behind the scenes, they have another skill set. Or if they're in a BD role, particularly, they have more doors open than that team probably has. Because like, look, AVAX is popular and they've worked with a lot of people. Bringing on someone like Vo, like she can have a conversation with, like if Vo was like, hey, I want to talk to you about something related to AVAX and DM me, like, easy response. If somebody I've never talked to before and don't know at AVAX reaches out to me on LinkedIn and we're not connected and they're like, hey, let's have a conversation about AVAX, or even in DMs and X, it's like, yeah, I gotta suss this out. Are you really there? Is it? So it's just, it is a way to smooth the process over. And I think people miss on that a little bit in how they do it. And the other thing that's funny is like people who are like doing that, it's like people think that they spend their day tweeting. It's like, that's an addition. Like what you do on a CT right now with your 10 posts a day is in addition to your job, not in place of your job. And I think people miss the spot on what that is. And they think people are just, I think people have a misconstrued thing about like what it is like working in Web3, especially when you're working for a company in Web3. It's like when I was doing the Starbucks work, it was like tons of hours every single week, and trying to stay active on the timeline, and trying to stay active in the Discord, and trying to do the planning behind the scenes, and working on campaigns, and rooting client feedback, and meeting timelines and deadlines. Like it wasn't an or. It's like you actually have a harder time keeping up on the timeline when you're working full time than easier time. So
100%.
Agree with you
Like,
on that, man.
I'll just say like my days like so structured because they have to be. Like I'm up at 6:30 with my kid. I take my kid to daycare by 7:30. I fire off my GM posts at 6:45, 6:50 when I'm walking my dog around the block, right? Like, so I ensure that like my engagement started, and then I lock back into dad mode while I'm on dog, while I let the dog back in. I drop him off. I get to work. I'm 8 a.m. I'm locked into our first meeting, which is at 9 o'clock. So I'm prepping the entire morning for whatever that meeting may be. And then I'm working throughout the day. My schedule obviously varies, but I make time for these things because I know that's an exposure point. Mark always says you have 10%. Give 10% of your time to something additional than your job, and you will flourish more at your work. So I give my extra 10% to CT and socials. I work throughout the day. I'm maintaining multiple clients and multiple teams that have built within, whether it's Courtyard or Find Satoshi Labs, which is Step In, or like all these different teams that have like built within Polygon. So I make sure they get all the attention they need. I pitch for new business that's coming onto ecosystem. So I'm like a 50-50 like sustainability and BD role. So I pitch new teams all day long. I lock in for dad mode from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock, 8:30, whenever he falls asleep. And then you know what I do? I go downstairs, I drink a big water, I stretch, I hit a run, 10 o'clock, I'm grinding it for another hour at least. You know what I mean? Like that is what it takes. And people think that it's all glitz and glam over here, that like, oh, you made it to, you made it to working Web3. So now that's the finish line has been hit. Dude, the race just started. Like it's almost like it's an Ironman competition. And the hardest part of this, when you do an Ironman, the swimming is the first thing you do. So it is the hard part, right? Like for sure. So you got to knock that part out. But the dynamic part is then going to biking. And then the aggressive part is then going and finishing the run after your muscles are tired and everything is, and your body's begging you to stop. You just need to keep pushing on the race because we know what we have the opportunity to do here. And yeah, it's purposeful. Yes, it's professional growth, but it's also saying that I can do something so big that I might be able to change the whole goddamn world. And that motivates me every single day. And I keep on the grind and I make sure that I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's so true. I remember one day I laid out what my day was like working when I was at Starbucks, and I put like the exact time frames, and it looked something like that, where it was like, up at, 5:30, 6 a.m., whatever time, pretending that it was that day. I get Starbucks for my wife and I because I know that she likes it and it makes her happy when she comes downstairs and has that. Potentially getting the kids to school if I have to do. There was a time when I was driving to school, like, so I'd be driving them to school, making sure that they have, ice packs in their lunch, that sort of stuff, making sure my dogs have gone out and gone to the bathroom. And my wife and I split on these things, but sometimes, it just happened to be that day I was doing a lot of them. Then I do coffee with Captain, so I have to spend an hour getting up to date on everything that happened overnight while preparing any live reads, while preparing anything. And then I would do that from 8 to 10. Then I would jump out of coffee with Captain, immediately make sure I'm in the Discord. Then it's like you have, 4 meetings, and then I have to pick my kids up from school because I was picking them up from school at the time because that was, what I was doing. They weren't taking the bus. And then so it's like mixing those things. And it's like, got to walk my dogs again, make sure they're good. Okay, I'm going to try to find a time to work out here, which wasn't happening as much when I was there. I'm trying to get back on track with that now. But it's like, just then I have to do this. And it's like pretty soon you realize like how many hours you have in a day and what you're doing. And next thing you know, it's like your head hits a pillow at, 11 p.m., 11:30 p.m. And next, you haven't talked to your friends, you haven't watched any football, you haven't done it. It's like, and then the next day you wake up and you do the whole thing all over. And, weekends happen too. And so I just think that, I just think that there is so much more to this world than people realize, to your point. And it's like, you are paying, like, it was way cushier being in corporate jobs. I like my corporate jobs, and just by working 100% of my time, I outperformed 99% of employees, like just by showing up, because a lot of people want to show up, mail it in. Like, I'd say the average person works like 3 to 4 hours a day at a corporate job, like real work, if that,
That's why I got into the space, because that's all I was doing. Like, I'm working from home and I only had to put in 3-4 hours, and then you know what I could do? All this other stuff, right? So
people who did 5 hours of work when I was at corporate positions, I'm not even making this up. People who I'm pretty sure did like maximum 5 hours of work were considered high performers. So one of the reasons I came in, and this would win me fans in like leadership and didn't win me fans in peers, is I would work not just my full time, but work a little bit outside of hours. And people would be like, what are you doing? Why are you sending emails on the weekends? And other people think that's their expectation. I'm like, I'm just working when I have free time because I'm a dad and I'm I feel this surge of energy to work on a Sunday afternoon. I'm going to work. Like, and I that is the thing that you realize, is that like I could make more money and be more chill at a corporate job outside of Web3. But the price you pay for escaping the matrix to do the thing you love, the price you pay to, realize that there is more to life than a ladder climb and money, for me personally. I'm not saying it's right for everyone. Some people it's perfect for. Like, I have friends who like going to work, maximizing their money, mailing it in a lot of the day and being happy with it, and then going bowling with their friends at night and then hanging with it's like good for them. It's not a bad life. That's great. For other people, it's like you don't look at it that way. And I think I had this conversation with my wife recently, kind of like a sidebar on it, but it's like people look at like salary and money and all these things as like sort of a scorecard. I mean, this conversation where we're like, if we can pay our bills and we can do the things we like and we can hang out with our kids and we can walk our dogs and we can go on dates and we can pay our mortgage, like, why wouldn't we do the things that do those where we optimize our happiness, as long as we're fine and we save for retirement and do all that stuff? Like, why not? Like, why would we not do the thing? Like my wife could be making an insane amount of money at like a job that she was previously at, and she's doing a job where she's making less money, but very happy. Mm-hmm. And that's important to us in what she's doing. And I like her coming home feeling fulfilled and feeling happy and feeling like she makes a difference and feeling like she's hitting a purpose. And she comes home and she's happier and I'm happier than she was when she was making, 3 times as much at a different job. It's like, it's great. And so like, it's not for everybody, but it's the way that we approach life, where we're like, as I don't care, my wife doesn't care. Those are the only opinions that matter. So what is our long-term? And it's one of the reasons why I'm like, hey, so I'm going to quit this really good corporate job with a really good benefits, and I'm just going to go try to be an internet JPEG person full-time. And she's like, that sounds awesome. Give it a try. We'll make it work. Yep. Like, and that's the way I approach it. Like, it's not for everybody, but at least for me, it's sort of a very fulfilling way. And I think for you, it's very important, where it's like, I don't want to blink and wake up and be like, man, I'm 80 years old. I wish I tried things a little differently. Like, and I don't think I'm going to be like, And every time my kids ask me, when my daughter asked me to go fishing on Sunday, wasn't like, you know what? I think I'm going to be like, you know what? I wish I worked more. I think I'm going to probably say, I'm glad she caught that fish. And I'm glad that we, went to the dock together and hung out and had a conversation. And she knows how to bait a line and she knows how to cast like a beast. And like, that's more important to me. So just different folks are different folks, but that's kind of the way I approach it.
No, man, on the same vein exactly with you. Like, and my wife has like she does really well. She's a chemical engineer, but her job allows flexibility for being with my son and always being able to pick him up from school, right? And like having that aspect of like the priority of where we want things to go and like how we want to spend our time through this life. And my wife is the exact same way of like, when I committed to this, right? Like she saw how much I wanted it, right? And it was like 2.5 years of like grinding and like staying up late and trying to formulate, like, first I was like a marketing lead for an NFT project. And then I got a part-time job at Magic Eden. And then I committed to a full-time job in Polygon. And it was like, she saw that level up and she saw me struggle. Like she saw me like to a place where it was like, damn, like he really wants this. He finds a passion in it. He loves what he does. He can't stop talking about it. But then there was also a very like honest point where I was like, babe, like, this is it. Like, I'm going to take a home run shot right now. I'm going to jump over. And this is a year and a half ago when I joined Polygon. I was like, this is my home run swing. And if it doesn't work out, I promise you, I will find something that doesn't give us this much stress, right? Like it was a real fucking moment where it was like, yo, like we are good because you have trusted me for 5 years to figure this out. Right. And I took that home run swing and freaking 16 months later, I'm in my perfect place. I've never been happier. And I'm operating in my flow state every single day and making an impact. We're an ecosystem that I love and I want to grow and I want to win and find other avenues for others to win as well. And that's what you need. Like you need that like middle ground of like balance and support, but also like the ability for somebody to encourage you to take that risk on yourself. Cause like I knew I could do this. It was just getting to a place where it was like, you've tried for so long, like unless you have this victory, let's have a real down-to-earth conversation about what the next move is. And luckily it's worked out.
Yeah, I mean, Pinstripe got a lot of people in the chat saying, time and happiness, because of having more of time with the kids while they're young is invaluable. Like a lot of people, having a lifestyle you enjoy is more important than getting rich, in my opinion. And yeah, like, I mean, I'm telling you, man, like that's it. It's like, it's just, I've been in a place where I had near panic attacks going to work on a Monday morning. Way years ago, like when I was a TV reporter and I hated it, when I was in a PR firm and I wasn't my jam and it wasn't the right fit, it was like you have panic attacks getting ready to go to work. You hate, live for the weekends, you hate your Mondays, and it's like the value of chasing the thing you like, even when it's hard, generally harder. And look, I have those mini moments where it's like you get a knot in work that's hard to untie and you're like, what am I going to do here? And then, somehow there's weird description I had. When I drove across the country for my reporting job, we had 2 cats in the car. It was the middle of winter. We were driving through Montana. And Montana, it sounds awesome. And it's beautiful. But then you realize Montana, if you picked it and moved it across the United States, it goes from Washington to D.C. It's huge. And so you're driving through the mountains and you're getting through Montana and it's dark. And it was icy. And there weren't good rails on the roads. And we're white knuckling through the mountains, hoping that we don't go over an edge and blah, blah, blah. And we see something on the side of the road. We're like, what the hell was that? And we're worried. And then all of a sudden we get to Idaho. We spit out into Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, one of the most beautiful places in the country. And we're on this freeway and it's overlooking this water and there's lights on the hill. And it looks like this picturesque thing that's out of a movie. And I sort of describe entrepreneurship or working in crypto or this sort of thing like that. You're going through Montana, you're white knuckling, you have no idea if you're going to make it out. And then there's Coeur d'Alene. And you're like, oh my God, it's here. And then guess what? You'll get right through to Montana again for a little bit, but there's always the Coeur d'Alene at the end of the drive. If you just stick it through and make it work. And it's this analogy that I hold and this metaphor that I hold close to my chest because like, I remember the stress of driving through there and holding the wheel as tight as I could. And then getting to Coeur d'Alene and we took this big breath and eventually ended up at Spokane where we stayed at a hotel. And it was like, that's what it feels like sometimes. Like sometimes I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to make it. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm like, do I have to go back to a corporate, which I'm not afraid to go back to a corporate job. If I need to. Like, do I want to work with whatever those things are? Like I have those discussions. I have those moments. And I've got a great support system that I'm very lucky that I can be honest with. But man, when you spit out and you're in Coeur d'Alene, it's the greatest feeling in the world. When you wake up and you're like, I'm in a flow state, things are working for me right now. It makes such a difference. And so it's like, look, you have to be willing to deal with Montana if you get to Coeur d'Alene. You know, you have to climb the mountain if you want to see the view. And that's how it goes sometimes. And I think, I respect that you and your wife have that same conversation. And, Cap and I have talked about this before. Supportive partners, man, such a level up. And like having the fact that I have a supportive ride or die who I could stand at the gates of hell and been like, yo, crunch the numbers, ran it. We're good. Let's walk through. We're fine. She'll be like, bet. Like that matters to me. And so, man, it's so important. And sounds like Diablito's done the hauled 8-9 horses through Montana to California. And man, Diablito's been there. So yeah, you know what it's like going through that thing. It is no joke. So yeah, man, it's good stuff. But that said, anything else on your mind? I know we hit the 10 o'clock hour. You did the full 2 hours with me, which I very much appreciate. Anything else on your mind before we let everybody get out of here and sail off into their day?
Nah, man. I just want to I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. Because like the first time you and I met was I just looked up the date. It was January of because it's easy to look up because there was a very notable day that happened. It was January 11th, 2024. It was the day that spot ETF opened for Bitcoin. And we're sitting at a melt in Independence, right? And I'm to throw flowers to somebody who gets a lot of flowers but still deserves more. You were like the keynote speaker of like our little community that was in Cleveland, right? Like 50 people at a little bar and grill, and you were speaking on your experience and like the Everything token had just launched, and like it was a lot of like things, right? And I was still young in my growth here, right? But to like have the ability to have accessibility to you, and for like you literally, we were sitting at this bar and you did something that was so unique, right? Like I was like, yeah, man, like I'm pretty sure I'm like hosting on a space in a few weeks. I'm hosting with Sans and Shotgun Espresso Shot. And you like literally grabbed me around the shoulder and you're like, oh dude, let's go to the bar. Let's grab a beer, talk about it real quick. And like you literally took me under your wing in that aspect. And I was like, dude, like where else can we have this experience? You know what I mean? It's like, I compare crypto to like professional golf where I can still interact with the players, and like call out things. And for Steve, for you to do that for me and now to be co-hosting with you and having these opportunities to do what I do and be on my growth cycle and now be a professional in the space, it really allows me to have this reflective moment in time where I am very grateful for being in this place at this time, in this world, doing what I'm able to do, man. So thank you for this opportunity this morning, man. Amazing conversation. Really excited to always put as much input as I can into this greater ecosystem, but also the things that you all do and Cap does with Coffee with Captain. When the Netflix documentary gets written, when the overall summary of how we got to where we are is painted in the stars, Coffee with Captain gets its own chapter, man. So I appreciate you a ton, brother.
Yo, appreciate those kind words, and I remember it well. You, me, and Allison ripping it up, and my wife at the bar there having a little post game party after the event. Great time, but no, appreciate you too, man. Stick in the studio afterwards so the recording goes through. I always make sure I remind people of that. I always forget to remind people of that beforehand. But yeah, no, appreciate the kind words, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for your friendship. I'm grateful that we get to hang out. I'm grateful we get to hang out here because, again, I do such a bad job getting out of the house. This is how we hang out, is we host a show together. So we'll definitely do it again sometime, man. I appreciate it.
Yep. Appreciate you always, brother. Let's get after it.
All right. Thanks everyone who came through this morning. We will talk to everybody bright and early tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time. I'll be joined by Von Frunton, and then Cap's back on Thursday. Probably do our big drawing for those thousands of dollars worth of ApeCoin on Friday. Maybe early next week, we'll let you know, but you're going to want to tune in tomorrow because we're probably starting a new partnership as well where there might be some opportunities. So let everyone stay off in their day. Thanks to everyone who came through. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody.
Thanks for tuning into Coffee with Captain, powered by ApeCoin. We hope you enjoyed the show, and remember, nothing we discussed today is financial advice. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and we'll see you soon. Have a great day.
Welcome to the future.